She'll take a copy home with her, probably.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. I need approval of the agenda from Monday, June 17th. With one recommendation, item number 5, we would table to July 1st, and we will have a presentation on that agreement. So my recommendation would be to remove that.
With that change, I will make a motion to approve it. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. It kind of got a little messed up there for a minute. But now we need approval of June 10th minutes.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, first item on the agenda is a Public Health Department update. Good morning.
Do you all have the report?
I do. Does
Okay.
everybody else have their?
I know.
Okay.
Perfect. Pretty brief. I don't think we've been to see you guys since about end of February. I'd have to go back and look. So apologies on the late update for our quarterly. But we do have a lot to update on. So since we last saw you, we did wrap up our child care immunization audits with 100% certification rate, up a little bit from last year. We just had one missing last year, so up a little bit from that. And I just included past data that you'll be able to see for past year's audits. One thing we did notice between both school and the child care audits, and this was also noticed by the state as well, is there have been an increase in religious exemptions. Now, why ever that is, I can't say, but there has been an increase. So I've included that data for both schools and child care, so you can kind of see the trends increasing there. A few disease investigations, nothing serious. We usually see more in the summer and in the fall as people are more active and not cooped up inside. So at our March Board of Health meeting, we concluded our department policy review. It's been well over a year-long process, and Mike can attest it's not been fun to review all our policies. We've got 72 policies that transferred over from St. Anthony's. Of those, 50 have been both digitally and print archived. So we have 22 remaining. A few we revised, just so as to not recreate the wheel, and a few that we completely reconstructed to reflect our current state. I will say it's not just 22 policies. A few of that 22 include Iowa code. So it's really about more like 18 or so policies that are strictly for public health department, including strategic plan, department overview, staffing, things like that.
Real quick before we move on from
Yeah.
there. When you guys do a change into your policies, does it get reviewed by the county attorney or assistant county attorney?
We did not know that. All went to the Board of Health.
Okay.
I can send it to them if you'd like. We are doing an annual review of those policies from now on. And I've got a timeline spreadsheet I'd be more than happy to send you. But no, it was more of like our policies included like our mission, philosophy, things like that. It's, you know, our complaint process.
Okay.
So I can get you those if you'd like, but I mean, they're pretty basic policies.
Okay.
They're not anything too crazy, but feel free, I can give you some if you'd like to look at them.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Just some department updates, what we've been up to since we last saw you all. All three, Megan, Kira, and I went to our Iowa Public Health Association conference at the end of March. I did a government social media conference, a nationwide conference that I thought was very valuable. End of April, I attended virtually, and Carrie and I did a pod tabletop exercise. What the pod is essentially, it's a pod that we would get from the state in the event of emergency with medication, emergency supplies, and we, being Carrie and I, we went to Polk County and they did a tabletop exercise about how that pod would run in an emergency situation, how we would set it up, how we would distribute, what kind of staffing we would need, just the flow of how a pod would work, which we've never done anything like that in many, many years, so it was very valuable. So in the event of emergency, we're pod prepared. I did apply for our annual sun safety grant through the Iowa Cancer Consortium. That's the sunscreen grant that we get, and we did get 1 gallon last summer. We got 3 gallons, but we also had rag bread last summer, so I don't expect to see an influx of 60,000 people this summer. So we just did the one, so you'll be seeing us going out and about doing different things at the pools, maybe some golf outings, things like that, just to hand out that sunscreen and do some sun education, sun safety education, I should say. Since we last saw you, we've continued to do our CPST, that's the Child Passenger Safety Technician, which is a certification that I received. We've been trying to come up with ways to bring that more to the public and to promote it. It's car seat checks, booster seat, whatever it may be, just child passenger safety trainings. So we partnered with the birthplace and with family providers in our area to include car seat checks on their new parent checklist. So we've been getting anywhere from 3 or 4 calls a month just with questions about car seats, and we've been doing a lot more car seat checks for expectant parents and new parents. It's now part of their checklist from their providers and from the birthplace. We did actually just have this last Saturday a summer car seat safety event at St. Anthony's. It was with myself as the CPST, and then one other gal who's employed at the hospital. She also got her CPST certification. So between the 2 of us, in 2 hours, we did 12 car seat checks. Usually 1 car seat check can take me anywhere from a half hour to an hour. So to get through 12 in 2 hours, I was very, very happy with. So it was a really good turnout, and we'll be doing another event at the end of the summer with the Carroll Fire Department's open house in September, so we'll be there as well. I'm just looking for other ways to get out and just bring car seat safety to those that would need it. We continue to offer family planning services in partnership with Crawford County Public Health. We did include a service flyer in the May utility bill through Carroll City Hall. So just looking for different ways to advertise those services and get it to the people that would need those services and that would qualify for those services. One thing we have brought new to our department is CPR training. Myself, Carrie, and Megan have gotten CPR instructors certified. So we started offering those services, and we started with conservation because they have a lot of employees that needed to be certified for this summer. So we've been working on updating their certification renewals. Once we've got them done, we'll begin offering those trainings to the public. We've already gotten quite a bit of interest, just people reaching out asking if we would be able to come to them and do the training, or if we could do a CPR training and just do the skills update for someone who, mostly senior citizens that don't really want the whole CPR or BLS provider certificate, but they want to know how to save a life. So we've gotten a lot of interest with that, so there will be more forthcoming from that. But all of that was funded by our Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant. All of our certification, our equipment that we ordered, all that funding came from FEP. So
How much was that, right?
how much was that? A lot. The equipment itself.
No, how much was the grant?
Oh, the grant. Our yearly breakdown, well, it goes, the funds are, there's a EMS or EMA fund, there's a hospital fund, and then there's a public health fund. I would have to look at the total breakdown. We get, I believe it's $40,000 to $50,000 a year to spend. But that's the one grant that, we come up with all of these ideas and we have to get approval, and one year it gets approved and the next year it gets shot down. So we had to get kind of creative on how to spend it, and they were really supportive of doing the CPR instructor certification. With that PEP grant, we also were able to do Stop the Bleed activities this year, whereas in the past years we haven't been able to. Kind of ebbs and flows. About every 3 or 4 years they'll let us do it, and then nothing since then. But we were able to do Stop the Bleed funds this year through that grant. We worked really closely with Jeff Cullen on that to evaluate what the schools already had, where their wall mounts were, where their kits were. When I say wall mounts, it's really just a small box that they attach to the wall, and there's 8 kits in that mount. All the schools in our area had them, however, the state asked us to evaluate where they were placed, and if a school building has multiple floors, they wanted kits on every single floor. So we went around to all the county schools and evaluated them. Through that, we added 8 wall mounts to the schools, and I can give you a breakdown which schools got what, but just for space and ease of reading, the report. 8 wall mounts, and we got 2 training kits that public health will keep. Those training kits are for the schools and whoever wants to utilize them to train school staff, maybe some students. I know a lot of the schools are planning on doing that before school starts in the fall, is retraining their staff on how to use the kits, what's included in the kits, how to respond in those emergency situations. We were also able to get traveling kits. We did post a picture of them on Facebook if you want to see what they look like. They are just like little red, almost look like cooler bags, but they're weatherproof, so that's why they look like a cooler. And those traveling kits have 6 Stop the Bleed kits inside of those, and we place those mostly at field houses, stadiums, things like that for the schools. So we were able to give out 6 of those. The locations, again, all Carroll County schools. We have not given any out to Adams and Glidden yet. We will be doing that in the fall. One of the requirements of handing these kits out is that the schools had to provide a list of trained staff, and it had to be a 1-to-1 ratio with the kits. So one trained staff to 1 kit provided. And so we're just working on getting some staff trained at those 2 schools. So, but that is already in the works for the fall, so they'll be getting those before school starts. Another thing we got through the FEP grants, and we really kind of did a lot with our FEP grant this year, which we were really happy about, is Carter kits. And those are sensory bags for children with sensory needs in an emergency situation, autism, things like that. What's included in those sensory bags is a weighted blanket, sensory toys, fidget toys, and noise-canceling headphones. We just got those in last week, so we're still working on where to place them and working with Jeff Cullen on that. We're thinking it may be fire departments, but in a trauma situation where we may have to open a shelter, things like that, we're just trying to figure out where best to place those. We only got 17 kits, so trying to figure out an emergency situation. If we had to open a shelter, who's going to have access to those kits, who's going to know that they're there and available. So still working on that, but we do have the kits ready to go, just need to place them. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Any questions, anything I can help answer?
On the CPR, is that, you're doing it with just department heads right now, or is that for the public, or how are you gonna proceed with that?
So right now we're just working on conservation because they have a lot of people that need to get renewed. for this summer. We did 2 renewals last week, and I believe, not this week, but next week, we have 8 renewals that we'll be doing. Part of our instructor certification is that we have to be supervised for 1 class. So the class we did last week, I was under supervision by Christina Werdehoff. She's the instructor trainer at St. Anthony's, so she came to supervise the class that I taught. And now Carrie and Megan have to do their supervision class, but they can do that combined with the 8 people we have remaining with conservation. And then we'll have our full instructor training, so. But as far as who we're training, I mean, anybody can get trained if department heads want to do that. The only thing we'll charge for county employees is the card. It's $8 a card if they want the BLS provider certificate. The public rate will be a little bit different because we'll have to account for time and scheduling and things like that. But yeah, anybody who wants to get trained, we just prioritized conservation because they needed it immediately.
Yeah.
So,
I think that'd be an awesome service for the public. That's like,
yeah.
I always wanted to get trained for coaching my kids. You know?
Yeah, well, and that's what we found too. I mean, there are other CPR instructors in the county. It's just, you know, class times, scheduling, availability, things like that. So we didn't see a downside to becoming instructors. It just was only a benefit to the county, and we'll see how it shakes out. But I mean, all the high school students have to have CPR certification before they graduate. So there's, you know, hundreds of kids every single year that need certification. So
They do that now?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's good. I did not realize that.
yeah, it's a graduation requirement.
That's not a bad deal.
I guess the only question that I have would be your online Facebook profile. Who all has access to be posting on there?
Myself, Megan,
Mostly you.
I do all of the posting usually. Dalton has access to it and shares some stuff.
Okay, have you guys been posting the agenda in minutes? Or do they go to the county website?
They go to the county website, and then they are also posted publicly at the courthouse. We can start doing that. It's not a bad idea. I know other counties do it. Not every county does it, but some do. So just up to our preference. If we want to start doing it, we sure can.
We had somebody ask us where they were at.
And I was able to find them.
Yeah.
I emailed Megan, and yeah, they are kind of buried on the county website.
Yeah.
But when you publish them, they're really 2 months behind, correct? Before they get approved.
Before the
you publish
approval,
them.
for the minutes, yes. The agenda is posted, but the minutes is a little late based on approval. We have bi-monthly meetings, so
Right,
May's
so fair.
minutes won't be posted until,
Approved in the
July.
following month.
yeah.
The agendas would be a good thing.
Yeah, I can start adding that. Our
That'd be
next-
great.
Yeah,
Because we did have a constituent ask us,
sure,
not just your board,
yeah,
any and all the boards that we sit on. So
Sure.
it's just something that I kind of been bringing up every time we have
Yeah.
a different board coming.
yeah. Our next Board of Health meeting is until the end of July, so I'll do it then.
Would be
July
appreciated.
30th, yeah.
Thank you for the update. Does anybody else have any more questions?
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you so much.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, second item is secondary roads. Zach, we've got to review and approve plans for shoulder grading on M66 south of Manning. Review and approve notice to bidders for shoulder grading on M66 a drain, and review and approve equipment quote. Then also review and discuss bids for intersection improvements M66 Birch Ave and 340th Street joint project with Ottoman County. And then finally, a department update.
Sorry, long list today.
That's good.
First, I guess, the plans for the shoulder grading, M66 south of Manning, long time coming. A couple copies, I believe, up there floating around. A lot of things to get to that point with right-of-way and utilities and everything else, but
Land acquisition.
things are
I
definitely
think all
moving.
the land is purchased.
Yep, that all got done this winter/spring. Utilities are, some are being moved as we speak. There's a few others that still have some work to do, but we're anticipating that happening soon. Hopefully getting this ready for sort of work to happen this late summer and fall. So, I don't know any specific questions.
What days do you go out for, what's the?
July 18th is the letting date. But our intent with this shoulder project is to have a 10-foot shoulder. 4 foot of that would be paved. The next one, we do our asphalt resurfacing, which will be more than likely next year, obviously.
Will this be similar to Olympic, the same widths?
The pavement, yes, the shoulders will actually try to be wider than that, since we bought right away. We had to, pitch things down a little bit on Olympic because of the right of way constraints we had there, but
And the terrain is a little different in a lot of the areas
It
well,
is.
compared to Olympic.
it is
So you're putting out for bid on July 18th,
correct.
and will the work be done, just the shoulder work be done this year?
Yes, I believe we have it set up as a completion date project, so basically asking the work to be completed by October 15th.
So the asphalt we did a separate time. That was
Asphalt we did a separate time.
DOT bid.
That'd be, well, right now it's set up to do that with local dollars as well. So that'd be, it'd be a local letting, and we'd probably have this winter for next year, would be the plan.
And this is 100% local dollars.
Yep.
And there won't be any road closures during this process, it'll be the resurfacing where that will actually close the road. correct?
There will be road closures with this process.
There will, okay.
Because to get the borrows to work out, there will be crossovers where they have to haul dirt from one side of the road to the other, so.
You're looking at, middle to end of July closure.
Probably.
So
Ideally, this would be probably an August, September project is what we look at.
So what kind of detour, you guys, detour set up for that then?
We'll be setting up a detour that's identical to what we're using, or us and Ogden County will be using for the intersection project that we'll talk about a little bit more in detail here coming up, but that'd be the official detour. We'll still have access for the local residents that live on that route. There'll be one way in and out, but through traffic, it will not be open for that. Yeah.
Okay. I know you don't want to give a dollar amount of what you're expecting, but for the whole project, including asphalt,
I'm actually gonna ask you not to answer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
that's what I threw in the asphalt too.
If you guys wanna have a
No,
conversation.
yeah, no.
That's okay, we can do that day in the day, I think. So you needed a motion then to approve the plan specifications?
Yes, please.
I will make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
One of these 2 copies is the official one inside. Right?
Signed by
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Okay.
That has to be a specific color.
I have blue.
Blue's better, but it doesn't really matter anymore. Used to be a very big deal, and it seems to be less of a big deal now.
Yeah. I actually forgot about that. Would you think you're wrong? So the day I woke up from my computer, I slept on my neck wrong, and I had a hard time trying to do it. Welcome.
The second item is the notice to bidders for this same project. This basically lays out the bid date of Thursday, July 18th. Lays out a description of the work. This is not a full list of items, this is an abbreviated list of items of work. gives the completion date, liquidated damages, what the proposal guarantee is, what specs we're referring to. Nothing different than we've done in the past.
I'll make a motion to approve the notice to bidders.
Second.
Here's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
A lot of dirt back.
It is a lot.
Too bad that, I'm sure that cubic yard price is quite a bit higher than what it was 20 years ago.
It is, it is. Hopefully we made it so it's a straightforward project that we can get some good bids and go from there. But you're right, it is a substantial project. Next item on the list is, I do have one drain. This is in Union Section 6, drain 67. There was a wet spot in the field where the tile was plugged. We did actually get this one done. We happened to be down there working on some work in the right of way and got this one addressed. It was a dead end in the line. Again,
Another awesome.
right. So, I guess it was dry the last couple of years. So, but this one's been addressed with a minor repair. So,
I'll make a motion to approve the repair. It's done.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next thing on the list is I have an equipment quote in front of you for a new excavator. Our current excavator is just shy of 30 years old. It served us well, but I think it's time to part ways before it costs us more than what it's worth. Did a lot of looking into what we were looking for from this standpoint, both from vendor and by bucket configurations for different work that we need to do. This will have a ditching bucket similar to what we have now that's tiltable for being able to maneuver in ditches.
And also be like
It's
a griddle.
not quite as much as that, as the swivel, but it does tilt
It does
this
do
way
that.
along with the normal functions. And the one we have now does that as well, so it's very similar from that standpoint. And then we also have a bucket in here that has they call it a crypto claw. Basically, it's like a heavy duty thumb. So if we're removing chunks of concrete or debris from the ditch or whatever it might be, makes it a lot easier to be able to grab onto those things, something we haven't had. So that will be a very nice add from what we did have. But the sell price does include trading allowance on our machine that we have, and a 1-year standard warranty, and then another 3 years extended warranty on top of that. There's some more optional warranty configurations that we're looking into. I'm going to find out if that's a purchase at the time of purchase, or if we can do that within the first year. So I'm going to try to do more digging into that. But I think it's very competitive with what I've seen from on the market. And I guess any questions regarding this quote?
You test drove one like this a couple weeks ago.
We did, probably a month ago, we did demo one for a couple days. Didn't really have anything bad to say about it at all. Obviously a lot more technology than what used to be, which is good and bad. But there's grade control on it, which will help out in some scenarios as well. Good machine.
You think it's worth trading that other one in for that price, or the key?
Purple wave it.
I do. I did some looking on what it might be worth on the open market, and I don't think we're gonna get more than that. Could get more, could get less.
Does it cost us or the county anything to let it sit there and use it on?
What I'm worried about, Mike, is the repair cost. The undercarriage is not good. It really needs some work, and I'd be worried that we'd be sticking a lot of money into it if we keep it around.
Just to keep it on, okay.
That's the biggest reason.
But did I understand, you looked at some other different companies?
We did look into other vendors a little bit as well. We just felt more comfortable and just really fit our needs with what we were looking for.
So what you were telling me, they weren't even close to the quality of what this is. And
There's some that are comparable, but with
but this price is very competitive.
it's very competitive price. It's, local
Good,
local
good.
vendor.
You did your due diligence and checking it out.
Yes.
And you're wanting to wait on the warranty extension, see?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards the 72-month, the 72-month PT hydraulic tech warranty. So it'd be that an additional $2,490. But I want to do some more checking into that, the particulars of that. But that's what I'm leaning towards. Just with the technology, the emissions, that stuff gets very expensive in a hurry, and I think one claim would probably be money well spent if we had one claim.
I'll make a motion to approve the Ziegler Caterpillar model 323 H2 excavator 2024.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? The only question I have for you is how many staff members will be utilizing this piece of equipment?
There's a few that are probably, I'll say, the normal ones that usually run our excavator, I'd say 2 to 3, but there's another few that are capable. We try to, depends on the job and what our staffing is at that point in time, who's around, but we try to keep the same people in for the most part, just for ease of use and comfortableness, I guess.
I do have another question. Is this got more reach than what the old one does?
It's very similar. I believe it's just a little bit, like less than a foot more reach. It's
So how deep can you go?
I'd have to look at the spec again, Gene. I would have to go
Going
in.
18 feet or something?
It sounds right. That sounds right.
But it can reach out farther than that, but the depth would be.
Right, the depth is less than what the reach is.
Right.
But yeah, it's got more of a counterweight on this one. It's heavier from that standpoint, which that helps when you're
Well, that's good that you're-
setting a pipe or setting, so that's the bigger plus, I guess.
There was a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next thing on the list is the discussing the bids for the intersection improvements of M66 and 340th Street. As we call it, Puck intersection down there, adjacent to Puck and right is. Ogden County was the lead on this as far as putting plans together, as well as having the bid letting for this RISE project for this intersection. Widening out the turn radiuses, both north and south, to make that intersection flow a little bit better with all the truck traffic that's down there. I think we brought the plans here for review probably 6 weeks ago, something like that. So they did have a letting through the DOT. It's a local letting, but it's still through the DOT from the standpoint that it was a RISE project. They had gotten 5 bidders, good numbers, below the engineer's estimate. If you remember, this is 80% funded through RISE with DOT, and then the 20% is paid by Audubon and Carroll County. So it's not split 10-10, because it's based on how much work is, our 20% of the work that's happening in Carroll County, and Audubon's 20% of the work that's happening on their side. So I can't remember, we're talking roughly $17,000 or $18,000 based off the engineer's estimate. So obviously with the numbers that have come in, it'll be less than that we'll be responsible for. But the Audubon County Board of Supervisors did award the project to Cedar Falls last week. So that's where they're at in the process, and they'll be working on contracts and whatnot. They're gonna get us a set of the construction documents and contract for our files essentially. But with them being the lead on this project, we're kind of letting them run with it. Good bids, it'll be again a good project to have done. Probably the biggest part of this again is that we'll close that intersection down and require a detour for local traffic, which is probably for 4 to 6 weeks, I'm guessing. I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but and when they're going to start. We'll know more on that as the contracts get signed and they have discussions with the contractors. So.
Those are quite a bit under 8 inches of this. I hope that follows through on our project to the north.
I hope. I agree.
I mean, that's almost 25% less than you do that.
It was not in county.
Yep. Any questions? There's nothing to act on that, I guess, but any questions regarding that project and how we're visiting
And
it?
say, it's a rice project, say how much of that is Carroll County, go through that again?
So the RISE is 80% funded through the state, 20% for the local entity. So since it's split between Audubon and Carroll County, I can't remember the exact percentages. I'd say it's maybe like 65% of the work is on Audubon County side, 35% on the Carroll County side, roughly. I'd have to
So
look
of
at
that 20%, 65% of the money is theirs, the rest is ours.
Right, right.
So if you took it out, average would be 22 out of each, if you took it in half.
Yep.
So what he said is probably about 16 or 17,000 our share. Which is, that's a good project for us, but
Good project for that rice grant.
It is.
don't get them very easy.
No, they're harder to acquire from what they used to get. Last thing from a department update, we did get our pavement markings put down last week. They finished up midweek last week, so those are.
You sub that out to a company.
Yep, we have a contractor coming in and do that for us. Got that taken care of, and we are currently working on, we just finished the last box down at M66. We had to extend multiple boxes. I think we talked about this a little bit last summer. But we had one more box to extend this spring. We got that done. We had one pipe that we need to do as well, a CMP pipe that we need to extend. So hopefully we're getting that done this week and have that project ready to go.
A lot of gravel.
A lot of gravel going out, getting some back here, but also gravel going out, some ditch cleaning, a lot of tile work. Obviously, the Mother Nature has decided that we need to work on tile again, so, among other things, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve a plat. We have one here requested by Matthew Connor. Everybody have a moment to take a look at that?
Yes.
Make a motion.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is to consider approval for the State of Iowa lease agreement for public defender. We tabled this for 1 week so we could get the description in right, the square footage, and the location. But I think it's all good to go now, right, Cory?
Yeah, I had the county attorney review it, and he said very similar to the last one, straightforward, looks good, so we have this posted.
Make a motion to approve, 120 square foot.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We tabled item number 5, so we'll be going on to manure management and renewal updates. And then shall we do this week? All right, Tomka feedlot. Section 35 Arcadia Township, no changes. Stengel Site, Section 17 Washington Township, no changes. A&L Farm, Section 13 Arcadia Township, change crop rotation or optimum yield, use manure analysis. Timber, Section 6 Linden Township, updated soil samples and P indexes. JMK Finisher, Section 13 Ewald Township, no changes. Smith Livestock, Section 1 Washington Township, 4-year plan. Pig Haven, Section 14 Glidden Township, no changes. Oliver 1, Section 14 Grant Township, 4-year plan. Ranch Creek, Section 25 Sheraton Township, updated soil samples and P indexes. Birch Fork, Section 31 Arcadia Township, no changes. Brandon Kirkhoff, Section 7 Eden Township, no changes. Elm and Lisa Ashag, Section 7 Roselle Township, updated soil samples and P indexes. Meyer 2, Section 1 Sheraton Township, no changes. And Randy Cohorst, Farm Site number 2, Section 32 Wheatland Township, selected to mothball site. And we'll take committee reports.
I can go first. First, I tried to connect on Highway 30 by Zoom, but I had issues on the other side, I wasn't able to do that. Otherwise, the rest of the week, I fielded a lot of calls and emails on different topics. This week, Tuesday, is CCGP board meeting on Tuesday, and then Tuesday night, we have a meeting with Maple River, and Friday is the SNF board meeting. I think we're meeting here, us three are meeting after this, just been going up for Monday. That's my week.
I can go. Last week I met with Mike and the city manager to go into more
I
depth.
got you covered over here, Chief.
More in depth about the 2-mile radius and options, and I know this is something that's on the forefront of the supervisors' our thoughts, so we actually are, Sarah up at P&Z and zonings, going through things. I know she's reached out to the county attorney and the assistant county attorney to try to set it up for June 24th for an open table discussion between having legal here, a few of our opinions, and maybe a few options as if there's gonna be changes or what we could do with that. Then I had a Region 12 exec board. Everything's going fine there. We set the budget for the Region 12, and I can hand this around so you guys can take a look at it. We also approved checks. Yeah. And then, again, last week we finalized some of the items for the boardroom, so I was working with John at Stones and did a walk through the courthouse. I also met with Barry Gruner. He's interested in maybe potentially donating a print to this room that has an original courthouse picture that he found back in 1965. I don't know, he was in a fight with his dad or something, but it's kind of funny. So he has a print that he had reframed that he'd like to maybe present to us to have hung up in this room. Couple things to keep on your guys' forefront. We will be hearing hopefully from the examining board. We will be setting up a conference board meeting to discuss the assessor's position and the new potential hire. I think I had Courtney reach out to the county attorney about the ordinances. I would also like to include that probably on the June 24th meeting. We've been working on this for about 2 years, so this should be ready and been reviewed. And that is it. This upcoming week, I have nothing official, and I will be in Ames area.
Last week, Monday, Gene was with me. Gene and I met with Aaron quick on the 2-mile, similar probably meeting to what Stephanie might have. Tuesday morning, executive meeting for the Carroll County Solid Waste Commission. Tuesday, I did talk with Zach about Drain 77, and he's working on a scope for that to go out for bid, hopefully this fall, and get the work completed over the winter. I did talk to Sarah at GIS about software renewal, Sidwell versus Beacon. I think we all got an email on that, trying to understand it. And I did ask the assessor about the examining board and when the conference board was gonna meet. Tuesday, I also went to the bus barn public hearing. I did ask about the fuel depot act. And phase one, no matter what alternates or what they do, they will have fuel on site. So that's something that's, yeah, not a bad thing for the county. Wednesday night, we had a 10-year comprehensive plan meeting about agritourism and experiences. We're adding a little chapter on that. There's an inquiry for want to know about zoning and on a property east of Dedham, so that should probably cover that part. Friday morning, chamber coffee at the rec center. RSVP volunteer recognition for Crawford County volunteers luncheon in Denison I went to. This week, tomorrow, CCGP meeting, Western Iowa Networks, and it's about daycares. We're all welcome to. I think Stephanie said they did that last year. It's at noon at Western Iowa Networks. And thanks to Don Bernholtz for making our flags and arranging the flags. That's all.
Last week meet stuff, city manager. And then Tuesday I went to the bus barn meeting, at DMAC. This week, I have to meet with you guys after the meeting. Tuesday night we have a Maple River, the sewer meeting at 6 p.m. And Wednesday I have, the WMA meeting in Oakland, Iowa. That is all this week.
Oh, I will be reaching out to Dalton too to change our supervisor picture. I think I might just ask for him to go back to the one that we had, because there is one just us four. Instead of digging another one, unless you guys want to.
What is the timeline look for, replacement?
Have to have the applications in by the end of the week. And then we have to make a decision.
So is that on Monday or Tuesday?
Friday,
No, when are you gonna make the decision?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. But I think the thing said Monday,
Well,
said Tuesday the
planning
24th.
Planning on meeting with them on July 1st. Probably after the board meeting to see. Or possibly sooner, just kind of depends on what their schedules look like and what types of applications we get in.
I also want to clarify too, important just to clarify to the public that this decision is up to 3 elected officials. You, the recorder, and the treasurer is not to be influenced by the board of supervisors. We are not a part of it, or any other elected official besides those 3. So you guys make your recommendation, and we will do what you guys agree. For next week, what do you got?
So I have the board to review accounts payable. I'm assuming you guys want to go through the invoices and payables. Okay, I wasn't sure what that is. That'll be our last bill date for the fiscal year. I have CCGP coming at 9 a.m. for an update. I do have 2 Mile zoning with a question mark.
So now that I've reached out and Sarah and I have been communicating, she's kind of hoping to get some communication back from the county attorney or the assistant. And I know they were at training last week too, so kind of give them a few days to pop back up. But she was hoping that they could go to the, yeah, June 24th.
So you're wanting all the expense reports brought up to date then by next month, each meeting then?
Well, if you want to get paid on that day.
Yep.
It's your end of this year,
Well, ideally, yes. But I have my statewide meetings next Wednesday and Thursday, which will be after bill day. So I'll be turning in some mileage for that. So that's all I have.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The district mission statement, inspiring learning and excellence for all. And our vision is Carroll Community School District inspires excellence in learning to prepare all students for success. Is there anyone? Okay, then we can call the meeting to order. Roll call. Jim?
Here.
Wayne?
Here.
Jill? Here. Kristen? Here. Stacy? Here. Stacy? Yes. Jim? Wayne?
Yes.
Jill? Yes. Kristen? Yes.
Yeah, so we have Tim Oswald here tonight from Piper Sandler. Seems like he was just here because he was.
So I have a few just kind of random items to go over with you, but maybe, since I was just here the other day, maybe I could start by asking you, if, for those of you that were at the session, if you had questions that came to mind from that session that we should talk about.
I don't have a question, I just had more of a concern. It's kind of with committing $1 million out of 2.2, let's say, as far as knowing that full amount, but I don't think I could do that. That was just, that's a little too much, just to commit it that long. To take 40-some% of our building savings to commit it that long period, so.
Any other comments or questions?
I'd love to do that.
So, as I mentioned in the session, and for those of you that weren't there, you know, the thing that worries me the most about, say, borrowings, and the same is true for adopted borrowings, is I can say, yeah, here's what the markets will allow you to do, and here's what you can fund. And, but I've been doing this a while, and I've had a number of superintendents call over the years, 3, 4 years later, and say, gosh, I wish I hadn't borrowed quite as much because I have all these other things. So going to your comment, I have all these other things I need or would like to be able to fund, and just don't feel like I have the resources to do that. And so, you know, you can simply hang your hat on the math, and the math would say when you take the saved dollars and the PEPAL dollars, you have those two, because they're the same, I know they're two different taxes, but they have all the same lawful expenditures. And then you take out of those the things that you spend annually for facility maintenance and technology purchases and transportation, all the other things that you spend. There's a fair bit of money left over each year. So there is some amount that can be afforded. But the question then just kind of becomes, where are you comfortable with that? And how comfortable are you with your projections? So I don't have a dog in this hunt. I'm just kind of hoping that you think about this topic a little bit, either direction. Now, I did say something the other night, and I think the district should be commended. You've got quite a bit of cash in that fund. And, you know, a lot of districts that I run into, you know, as soon as there's some cash there, they go, well, we got to do X, and then the cash disappears, and they're not thinking kind of more longer term about it. And I don't get a sense that you behave that way. And, you know, you certainly have a meaningful amount of cash that you could do a project without having to talk to me, which is great. So don't lose sight of that. In terms of process, so let me explain just kind of bonding process itself for you. You have an agenda item on later on your action items to set the date and time for a public hearing on the bonds. Nicole will get that action posted in the paper. and then you'll hold the hearing. And once you hold that hearing, that does not mean that you're obligated to do anything. You'll adopt a resolution of intent. Under Iowa law, resolution of intent simply says, paraphrasing, but we're not abandoning the project. That's all it really means. Doesn't mean we've committed to it, it just means we haven't walked away. From there, anytime after that the board is so ready, the board can borrow money. And the board would have the authority to do it at that point forward. Is it okay so far? We did talk briefly about the 14-day period after the hearing, where if a petitioner wants to, they can get signatures and present a petition. So we have to wait through that 14-day window before you can move forward. But anytime after that, you can move forward. So the dollar amount that's on the resolution has my fingerprints on it. So keep that in mind as you're looking at it. And when people borrow money against the SAVE, one of the things that you have to fund is a reserve account. Typically, we set up a reserve that has 10% of the proceeds or 1 year's payment. And it's your money, you earn the interest, you keep the interest. When the bonds pay off, the money comes back to the district. But it adds to the cost. So if you're borrowing, let's say, 10 million, 10% of that's $1 million, so we're actually borrowing a little bit more than 11 million. Then you throw on to that bonding related fees, and so, you know, the number gets a little higher. So what all I did was say, all right, we think the number, top number is 14.5. Let's put a reserve there and then try and cover off fees. So that's where that 16 million number comes from. I'm not suggesting you borrow 16 million, noting that you have a fair amount of cash on hand. I think you can afford to borrow less than that, should you decide to do the entire project. Doing okay so far? So that's where that number came from. The number is important only because it's a cap. You don't go above the number. You can certainly go below the number, but you just don't go above it.
And if we go above it, we have to go back to a public hearing, is that correct?
Start over, yeah. Correct. Did I get that right?
No, I was.
Quick question right now.
Yeah.
In the market, what do you see, if we would bid this out, what do you see the road rate right now?
20-year bonds would be 4.25, maybe 4.5. If we go shorter than that, in theory, in the normal market, we would lower the interest rate. You're familiar with where we're not in a normal market. You have to lower the rate much to go to, 10-year payoff. So you're still going to be probably at least 4.
So you have the callable feature in case the rates did go down,
You had,
but then you repay all the bond fee and correct?
correct. So when we do that calc, we always essentially take all the bond fees, calculate, and is there money left after that? And then is there enough money left after that to justify burning up that call option? Otherwise, we just sit on it and wait. Because that burden of paying 2 sets of fees, but paying a second set of fees is a real burden.
And I said compensation is at 1.2%,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed, so it could be at 1%.
It could be lower than that,
The
yeah.
line standards are on 1.
I kind of want to, one is about where it should be.
Yeah.
If it's 16 million, one is probably a little high. If it's 5 million or 4 million, 1.2 is probably right. So the purpose of that 1.2 is not to say that's the number, but just to say it won't be higher than that. Okay? So what I've not done is prepare any kind of schedules or numbers for you to look out to say, all right, if we did this, here's what would be left. If we did this, here's what would be left. Dwayne, based on your comment, I get a sense that maybe that might be helpful for the board. If we looked at some scenarios that had borrow this much, borrow this much, borrow this much.
I personally like to see what a 10 or 15, I don't want 12, 20.
Okay.
I just don't see us
to remember, the bond world is that within reason, we don't have to choose the same payment each year. So, unlike if I were to get a car loan, I'm gonna have a 3 or 5 year loan, it's gonna have the same monthly payment. Bond world, we will sometimes, we call it wrap around, we'll sometimes set the payments of a new bond to wrap around the remaining payments of an old bond. So we're solving, I feel like a used car salesman sometimes, but, so we're solving for P&I, for payments, for the budgetary issues that cause us concern. So when we do that math, I'll show you how those two separate. I don't want you to just say, all right, that payment's gonna go away, we'll have a drop. That's true today, but when we throw a new project in, that may or may not be true. So please don't think that way.
Looking at their projecting that 5 years, realistically not sooner. So those bonds that are being paid off, we use those proceeds to cover that issue. Also, that's that new project, as you mentioned, that's gonna be creeping up here for 2024, so by 2027, could already be starting the project. That will probably be next time we start.
We need to put more time into modeling those, the remainder of the master plan, when it might happen, and what it does to taxes overall, whether that's save or capital or debt service. We did some early on, maybe 2 years ago, but we haven't updated that since then. So,
One of the scenarios that we talked about is, so we have the 3 chunks of this transportation facility project. If we said we're just, so we can go about the base, I'll just say the base, which is right now projected 5.2 million or something like that ballpark.
Plus the professional for the first 10.
Right, so we have about that balance in saved, but you don't wanna, let's see, run that clear to 0. And then we're talking about 10 years, is there a way to do less than 10 years?
yeah, especially if you're thinking like, putting words in your mouth, that in mind, but we have a $6 million, well, $5+ million project, and we want to use $4 million of our cash, so we need to borrow $1.5 million, $2 million. Well, that completely changes my thinking on how you set up that issue. Would you go to the capital markets and get a rating, pay the fees, or would you just go work with the bank, put together a bank loan structure? And particularly, I don't think you would want to do a 20-year issue for something that small of a borrowing. The interest cost would be very significant. You could pay that kind of a one-off in 2 or 3 years, frankly.
And then the board could decide if you wanted to, you could repeat that a couple times if you wanted to hit the whole thing and sum up, over a period of time, or maybe you wouldn't want to. I mean, the whole transportation facility.
Then I come back, Wayne, and I'm picking on you, I come back to you and say, let's argue about that, how much of that $1 million I want to commit. If I'm only committing it for 2 or 3 years versus 20, maybe I'd say, that's okay. We can see where we're gonna be over that 3-year window. Let's go ahead and commit to get that loan paid quickly.
I think that scenario carries some careful consideration because I've been thinking through this, like, okay, we did half the cold storage, paid down 3 million, 2.5, just about paying for cash on the cold storage, and then you buy maybe 6.
Yeah.
Well,
so you don't have those expenses.
Yeah.
And what
So
are the,
then you kind of go that route, and still, when you're doing a note at that rate, you're still gonna be the same rate structure as a bond, because.
Net of fees, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
are there any different requirements on the district for the timeline and all of that with a situation like that versus bonding?
So yes and no. On the timeline part of it, no. The bond and a loan are the same thing in the eyes of the statute. Same 15-day or 14-day window, same public hearing, all that's the same. You're banging out all that here, right? So that'll be behind you. From there, the rest of the requirements are very, there's less disclosure, less documentation.
Reporting requirements?
Exactly.
And pecking order, is behind the law,
Yep,
so.
I just wanted to make sure that there was
They're actually the same, by the way.
Well, they are.
They are identical, yeah, they have the same plan. So better off than you thought.
And I'm thinking, if you don't have to spend the money, if you're not, never gonna borrow that much, you might go with.
So it's a math exercise. On one side of the equation, we'll compare what kind of rate can you get from a bank structure, what kind of fees, what kind of rate and what kind of fees on a conventional bond, and then you weigh the two. And we do factor in intangible, how much of Cole and Casey's time will we consume for each of those two, both upfront and over time. It's less about money, but more about just efficient operations of the district. That's an easy exercise.
Maybe Tim, one thing we can do, how about a calculation is to give you a number, this will be down the page. How about say, you'll pay 2 million down, you'll pay 3 million down. 3 would kind of be my top end on it, I think. That leaves us 2 million, I guess then have to write the whole. Business manager, comfortable with 2 million and say, this next school year, I don't know what projects Jeff's got on the dock, but he wants bigger expenditures, and he's wanting to look at. Don't want to jeopardize those with any other kind. We're gonna try to figure out, be most efficient about it, and what's the max we could put towards a protection.
And what I've seen with previous school boards before us, school boards have always been conservative with their savings, you know, with their cycles of money, which has been great, that's why we have one sitting there. You know, the number I was saying is still been conservative with 2, whether it's 3 or 2, I think we have all put in there, where we're pretty much borrowing half of what we're at. Things, that's it. How that looks. So then the question is, I know the intent is just saying we're still looking at going forward. When do we want to look at having a full ability on, even if it's 1, 2, or 3, we want to do it before the intent, or how do we do that? That way, it would help Tim with figuring numbers on how much we're looking at something.
I'm not ready to say just the base, because even after with the surveys and stuff, a lot of the surveys from the people that were there, a lot of their comments were one thing, but then we got a lot of the surveys back that said to do the project or to do one cold storage. There was more for to do at least one cold storage or all of it than none, so I'm not ready to just say no to at least part of it, especially when we're putting money, not much money towards it. And we're only borrowing, 3 million or 3.5 million, then to add at least the 20 plus storage, we're not borrowing.
Give us 2 scenarios.
Do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Like,
I've got like 4 or 5 running in my head right now.
Yeah.
if you want to split the difference and just say, look, figure 2.5 million down. Pull half cold storage at the base, and then just the base, what do those 2 scenarios look like? I don't know, Lord, how you guys feel about that?
Would we like to see the actual bids first, so we know exactly what it would be, or do you want to go that far?
I mean, this is always gonna be, bids could come in, you could do all this, and bids come in Yeah, so like
If there
this.
isn't a point in time where you want to say, no, we send a message or whatever it is, then, the July meeting, you could do it tonight, because there's nothing on the agenda, but the July meeting, potentially you could.
I mean, the
bids, I think.
schedule would be in August or September before we would actually see.
Bids.
But if we felt like we're not gonna do the whole project, we could just do base, would have to go with storage, as far as the bids.
And I asked him if we could look at doing something in the back with electrical, maybe with base done, like the groundwork laid, and without it cold storage. Because I'd like to see what the estimate cost on that.
Because it kind of sounded like it would just did the base. He has to like move some stuff because of where the buses are coming in and stuff. So like the long term, adding the 20 in, the 20 is going to be even harder if we just do the base now. But if we do the base plus the 20, they'll put it, because there's nowhere for the buses to come in and park and turn around where they put the building.
That's why I'm initiating sometime that we can set up, instead of back a lot of it, such as DLR, the bidding, and yourself, or not, change the work around there. When we, consider it their time to work with as well.
I'm just thinking probably just looking at some of those scenarios on the financing side of it to see what we're comfortable with.
You want to do that before the July meeting, or you can do it next month, between now and July?
I'd love to see those numbers before the July meeting.
Okay.
That's
Would you board or a committee or a work
I
session?
think with the pensions project is done, I think it's a board meeting. There's the role of the things that we talk.
When is our work session?
We don't have one in July.
I can just schedule one.
But we do have
Just talk
the
you
end
through
of
it.
the year bill, no, we put that on that,
Well,
not ideally, okay.
we could do it on the, I don't know what we could do on the board, we could have on the first, people are having plans and everything out by then.
I'll let it home for the military,
You're what?
because that'll be home for the military for
So
the
you'd
next 2
rather
weeks, so
not-
I don't think anything.
Okay.
Well, better to go back to 8,
Yeah.
about.
That, no, he leaves us up.
Or you don't know, we Jim. Yeah, I think I'll put, coming back.
Yeah.
Sharing it back. I can do it on the 15th. Kind of schedule a few things around.
15th is early as the meeting will be next month, so we're out that right actually. But other,
Can we have a pre-meeting meeting? Like, if we do this for like an hour, like something, and then schedule the regular board meeting after that, or no?
oh, like,
Well, it was, just put it in the agenda,
Agenda,
just-
But in a public forum.
Yeah.
we could do a work session
will,
Yeah. So I'll come up with several scenarios,
We'll update
get
our projection.
the math to you in the interim. Hopefully that will cause you to say, hey, I'd like to see some other set of criteria. We then compare and get those to you so that on the, and I apologize if I'm keeping you here and somebody says, I don't understand any of this. Let's hope that doesn't happen, but we'll do our best. Because I've got a few in my head that you've kind of just come up with playing around and listening to you. I will probably miss one that you can explain the other. Is that okay?
yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know where to find me.
You know, on vacation.
Not for the 15th. I know. Consider the removal of the agreement with Piper Center, which is the agreement.
On that one right there, opportunity to have those settle on. This was structured 1%. And it just says we will be 1.2%. I think that's what I'm going to do. That's it for.
Tim, did you hear that?
I did not.
Tim, what you're reading here under compensation,
Yeah.
you have that we are paid 1.2, but you said it's up to 1.2.
Correct.
And then that would also change if we went with a note instead of a bond. So by signing this, what would happen if we decided to go to out?
Well, so I'm gonna give you two answers. One is that, these are friendly discussions, and so should you change your mind, we'll change the agreement. That's answer one. Answer two is, if you'd rather wait until we get to the July discussions and then bring this up, I think that would make perfect sense as well. We've already given the district what we're required to give in the way of disclosures about fees and things, so we're good to wait if you want to wait enough on it. Just table it, I guess.
Thank you.
We're gonna table to July 15th, is that correct? Or will it be after that?
You want to table it, I make a motion to table it, second, go on.
So we just say table, we don't say until a certain date, and, right?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. So you need a motion to table Piper Sandler agreement until a future date, is that correct? I will make that motion. Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Blaine?
Yes.
Jill? Yes. Okay.
Good evening, my name is Jess Stengel. I am the IJAC specialist for 11th and 12th here in Carroll. Going to kind of give a little bit of an insight over the past year, and there's a lot of facts. There's a lot of moving pieces to this year, so I figured kind of the best way to really get an insight to how JAG operates, what we're about, is to kind of show you some of what our students have been up to. And then we'll kind of go over some of our growth and then our potential growth and some of the opportunities that we have coming in for next year, for not just the program, but for our students. So we'll go ahead and kind of get started. So this was at the beginning of our school year this year. Our very first invite was actually from Audubon. We went to the Agri Hall. They had a career fair that was done by their extension office. And honestly, it was probably one of the best, because a lot of my students really hadn't gone out much. And so being in a social setting, starting small was a great opportunity for them to not only socialize, but they got to meet a lot of different employers along the way. And really just kind of expand their horizons a little bit. So that was kind of the first start. We ultimately started off with 15 students. We'd like to kind of see more, but it was actually a great start to the program and getting it up and going with that. So the next part of this was a huge piece for our IJAG program, which is our Career Association. Much like a lot of boards and things like that, it is a campaign focus. The students have to figure out what area that they would like to run for, and that is their role for the remainder of the year. These roles allow them to interact with like the Chamber of Commerce and employers. They learn that engagement maybe through emails, setting up that engagement in the classroom. So they're learning how to reach out and invite them into the classroom and really set that precedence for interacting with employers in our community, which is very important. So these students, they all ran with everybody else in their classroom, and then they were voted in. And so they covered for the remainder of the year in different areas and kind of helped decide where we wanted to go as far as engagements, volunteer opportunities, things like that. So this was our Leadership Development Conference. This was the largest conference that these students had ever been to. There's 2,300 IJAG students present. This was our largest LDC conference IJAG has ever had to date. So we are growing as schools are growing across the state of Iowa. So they each had to split off into their leadership role into different rooms, and there's 100+ kids. And so they, much like you guys, were sitting down and taking in what are you doing in your school? How are you engaging in your classroom? What ideas do you have? How can we involve the community? So this was a fantastic learning opportunity for the kids at the start of the year. The next part with our leadership was that they got to go to the Capitol the first part of this year. They were able to meet with different representatives. They were introduced in with when they handed in, I guess, as far as their school, who they represented. And then one of our very own students actually was selected to go into the governor's office and to share her story about why she's in JAG, why JAG is important to her. Again, something completely out of the box for this student, and they excelled in this. So great learning opportunity, great experience overall. It was my first experience too. I had never been to the Capitol, so it was awesome to be able to share that with my students. I just ultimately spent the day exploring and learning about our legislators and what they do for us in our schools. So another part of IJAG is more focused in the classroom. We focus on team building. Sometimes it's not all book work or out in the community. Sometimes it's just getting together and doing different activities. This just happened to be a holiday one that they had to work together with. So these ones are from different employer or different school events that we've gone to over the course of the year. So The first one is actually at the DMAC here in Carroll Automotive Program, so the kids got to do a hands-on workshop. The second one, this is actually Ottawa County's general surgeon who decided to join in with our students, which was an amazing opportunity. The kids literally was able to see the entire hospital from top to bottom, maintenance, accounting, admin, the lab techs, med-surg floor, everything that you could probably think of that makes up a hospital. They spent the entire day learning about it and getting to do workshops. And again, DMAC, they got to do a little bit of the nursing program, so that was also a neat opportunity. Our next big piece, we had Representative Brian Beston, Mr. Burlaw, or Dr. Burlaw, and Ms. Evans were able to join us for that also, to be able to sit down and kind of just overall understand what he does for our community and the communities around us, but then also be able to kind of reflect off of him as far as a leadership role. Why is leadership important? So again, a great learning experience for our students. Another big piece that we had, our students have taken on a big role in volunteering for our school food pantry. This has been a good learning experience for them, not just at a volunteering point, but they learn about dates as if they were in a grocery store. So they're learning about stocking, organization, just key tools, and ultimately team building and communication. So that was one of our big key focuses this year. And then another one, the kids got together and created a donation basket for Minden during that time. So lots of different areas that we've picked up over the spring to help out with. This is probably the biggest opportunity we've had this year. I took every single student in my classroom, which was about 21 students, to Build My Future at the Iowa State Fairgrounds. There were 7,200 kids in attendance. Out of that 7,200, 2/3 of that were IJAC students from across the state. So they were able to not only engage with employers, explore internship and apprenticeship opportunities, it really opened that gate for them, but also get to meet a lot of our IJAC kids. So these are just some of the many opportunities here that they were able to do. Same as this, climbing, meeting with military, wire cutting. I had a student that had never touched a welder in his life and had done a simulation and a hands-on live welding, 98%. You don't come across that every day. So huge learning curve, and has kind of given a little bit of a different career direction for that student. So we kind of know he's a junior, so we have a direction of what his senior year is going to look like as far as planning. So kind of to go over some of the statistics. So we started at 15. We ended with 21 this year. Give or take, we had about 26 students in the program. But as things change, life changes, we have kids that kind of come and go and have to do things to meet their needs. We had 22 employer engagements for the year. So that is not only in our classroom, but that's also out in the community that's doing these events that we're going to. For the student enrollment for next year, we're looking at 36 and counting. As far as how enrollment goes, each student that is recommended to me by teachers or by guidance, I sit down with each of those students and I go through and I ask them kind of a series of questions. I get to know them, what their plan is, what their direction is, and if they want to be part of JAG. JAG operates on wanting to be part of something just because there's so many moving pieces, and all of them have selected yes as far as wanting to be part of this program. This year we had 4 seniors graduate successfully, have made many turnarounds. There were some areas struggling with grades, didn't know what they wanted to do, maybe a little bit of attendance issue. But they literally, just the growth that came from them of not knowing what they wanted, where they were going, to watching 2 out of my 4 literally starting college in 2 months. And they have their apartment already set. They're ready to go. And then I had one that is still looking at an internship possibility. So, and at this time, those 4 seniors, I will follow for the next year to see where they're at, what they're doing, if they need help with anything like that. So that is kind of the synopsis for this year, what we've done. There are a ton more that I could have showed you, but we'd be here forever. So as far as this year, moving forward, the start of the year will have my work-based learning certification. So that is going to be opening the door to more internships, apprenticeships, job shadows, and just really engaging in a community with employers. With the school schedule that I have, and then with work-based learning, it allows me to be in the classroom, but it also allows me to be out in the community and assisting those students in the work field and guiding them as they transition into a potential internship. So, and then we have new project-based learning activities coming this year, so there's a lot more learning pieces that we will be doing as far as that goes, and employer engagement. So we have a busy year in the works for next year. So, any questions?
This is awesome. Do you need anything from us?
I mean, not at this time. I know I talked with Jim, and Jim has been one of the individuals that's offered any resources. I think more so it's just any recommendations, or if you know somebody in the community that would love to participate in the program, please, I'd be willing to take any of the recommendations that you have for the program.
How many students?
Yeah.
How many students do you expect to have next year?
36,
36.
yes.
And are there any freshmen, is that just one?
So right now, we only have juniors and seniors.
And these 36, they come in for recommendations, or can they ask to be apprenticed?
So they can do both. So some of these students are the juniors that I had this year. So they're going in for their second year. We really like to see juniors come in and stay the full 2 years, but we are not opposed to having seniors come in the start of their year, especially if they're just like, hey, I don't know what I want to do, and giving them that exposure to the employment world and kind of just helping them really decide, I thought I wanted to do this, but I want to do something else. So that is the goal, is 2 years, but if we can at least give them one, absolutely.
18 seniors then basically coming in next year.
Yeah, 18 seniors. So it'll be a bittersweet day when they all graduate. That is the goal, is to get them to that point, get them to graduation, so.
And so like with the well-being student plans that tree, like do you help them with any of that classes, like the work-based kind of same situation?
Yeah, so one of the unique things about our program is, so we interact with all, for example, Puck Implement and Manny. We two were there this year. Jeremy Puck, amazing guy. And I've known him, and it's one of the things that he focuses on as much as we do at JAG is that return on investment. So he's willing to take on, say, a student and work with them from the ground up, teaching them from start to finish welding, with hope that they'll stay there, or at least take what they've learned and take it and build with it. And so that is one of our apprenticeship or internship focuses, is really correlating businesses like that really want to have that return on investment and teach these students so they can build. Houseby is another one. I had a senior this year that all of second semester, he went there every single day after lunch until 4:30 in job shadow because he needed the experience. That's what he was interested in, but he had none. And they were willing to teach him every single day what a tool was, how to operate it, things like that. Those kids who have that interest don't have that ability to learn those things. So that is one of the big pieces for this year that we have found, and we're continuously building. And this work-based learning program is really going to open the door to allow more businesses to come in and give these kids those opportunities in the trade field.
How do businesses find you then?
So I guess it's kind of a mixture. I actually come from a background where I have a lot of business connections through Carroll County and other counties, so I've kind of incorporated some of that and done some reach out. Some of it is I call them, I make an appointment, and I go and see them and just kind of explain what we're doing, what our program is, how we work, and really just kind of connect that piece and invite them to the classroom first, and then build them thereafter that. So.
Can we get maybe some business cards type of situation that we are out talking about this?
Yeah.
And they want information that we can hand them that?
Yeah, I have the business cards, so.
Jess, have you visited with Jen Lunasato? Will Hub 712?
With who?
Hub 712, Jen Lunasato.
I have not. They're actually, so Iowa Workforce Development, Hub 712, and then obviously reverting back with the chambers and things like that are on the agenda for planning for next year.
So ideally, you probably want more like a mix, like half seniors and half juniors. I'm just afraid, you're gonna have all the seniors, and next year we don't have many, it seems.
So
how we can try to even that out a little bit better for you.
So with our class, what we want is the classroom to kind of look like the school population. And sometimes we're gonna have more seniors than we are juniors. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Our seniors this year were really our advocates for coming into the program. And that is kind of what we want, is those juniors and seniors really working together.
Do you have the training away right into that? I guess that's what I'm wondering if there's not many juniors because of turning people away, or?
So honestly, as far as turn away, it's every kid no matter what. That's the focus, but there are some things that we do look at. We want students in the classroom that want to be part of it, because if they're not, it can create a little bit of a kind of a barrier in the classroom, because the classroom is very group focused, and it takes everybody working together to really make things happen. Does that mean that sometimes we have students that come in and just like, I'm just not doing nothing today? Absolutely. But they really gotta wanna be in there. Sometimes, I had a senior this year, they were in second semester. We don't take seniors that are in their second semester. It's just, there's so much to get out of it, so we refrain from doing that. But, really, other than that, if they want to come in, yes. We'd like to get up to 60 kids. So, at some point, but it also takes the students word of mouth and their experience in the program. And I think, and probably Ms. Abbott's could agree, our influx really came from the Carroll newsletter and her sharing some of the IJAG experiences that went out. And then after that, I seen some influx in kids wanting to be part of the program, so. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thanks for taking our questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Have the numbers.
So I'm thrilled.
It's my favorite.
we'll kind of break it down, work our way through the test, and then kind of, so we'll hand out some data, talk about test, and we'll go on to the next one after that. So the first one we're going to look at is the fast reading. So just a little bit about fast reading. Just because, again, we're so familiar with these tests that sometimes we get people who don't deal with it all the time, maybe aren't as familiar. So our teacher K through our first grade, they take another reading test. So our teacher K in kindergarten, that means the subtest of letter sounds, nonsense words, word segmenting, and sight words. And our first grade take sight words, word segmenting, nonsense words, and the CBM reading. Then our second through sixth grade, they all take the CBM reading, which is they read 3 passages, and it's strictly a median score recorded as words per minute. So basically, it's just how fast can you read it per minute. And then the second through fourth grade, this year we went back to taking the reading test. That's a computer adaptive test that tests over 4 domains. You can see that up there: foundational skills, language, reading, literature, and informational reading. So again, that's an adaptive piece where questions either go a grade level above or a grade level below. So unlike the NWA where you can go really, really high, this one limits it within grade level above and below. So if you look over, and again, there's a lot of data on here, maybe some more than you're wanting to look at, but the front page there breaks that down by the demographics piece, segregated out. Then on the back side of that paper is the reading comparisons, us compared to Hartland as well as the state of Iowa. And then you can kind of see how does that look through since we started taking the fast back in 2016. And then the A reading on the back of that. So we'll give you a chance to go through that, answer any questions or talk about anything you'd like to talk about in regards to the fast reading.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
What's going on with the 5th and 6th grade? That's me. So in 5th and 6th grade, they shift more to comprehension than fluency. And it's not practiced as frequently, just like the fluency, the reading fast. It's more the comprehension. And so that's one of the things, and I know our ELA department at the 5th and 6th grade had that same discussion when we brought this data to them, like why is it dropping so much in 5th and 6th grade, and how are we going to implement different practices to help that? Because when it's under 80%, you want to, it's like a universal, almost every student needs that extra support. Well, the drop is it coming because of the new building?
And that could be, there's no significant, there's no data to support that, but.
Well, I'm concerned because if our numbers are going low and our plan for next year is possibly to have all of the 5th grade teachers teaching the ELA segment of it if we don't hire teachers, is that correct?
Right.
What's going to happen at that point?
The writing class.
The writing class, there will still be a
There's still be a separate.
reading teacher for. Okay. So it will be on Mrs. Conlon. That's who's going to teach reading next year. So she will have to have some kind of implementation of fluency within the core class.
It seems like when we start low, we stay low. There's no growth at all in the 6th grade males throughout the whole year. No growth is no growth. There has to be growth. I don't know, maybe it's the ELA teacher that's coming around.
No, you're probably.
You know. Yeah, no. I don't know, juniors and seniors, or sophomores and juniors in 5th grade.
The lower levels are so fun to look at, and then it's just like.
And I think part of it is, by the time they do get to 5th and 6th grade, like, they're almost fluency out in a way sometimes too.
And if it's going to comprehension, maybe that needs to be the focus, and not more than the fluency portion of it. I we don't care if they read that, they care that they can understand what they're reading.
Correct, so that's where,
And they do, and that's what this is testing speed.
yeah, it has nothing to come.
Yeah, I know, but it's still.
And what do they end in, so they have to read 100, by the end of 5th grade, they have to be reading 163 words a minute, which would be hard for me to pass. So, I mean, they're, like,
I'm gonna interrupt that, because keep in mind though, don't put it at necessarily even the 5th grade reading level of what they're reading with that comprehension. It's specifically testing how quickly are they just reading it quickly. There's no comprehension. It's barely at 5th grade reading level. You're not meant to comprehend it. It's the idea though that if you can read at a certain rate, you will be able to comprehend it quicker. So like, I know there becomes that push and pull as we get into the upper grades with that, because as we get into more complex texts, of course we're gonna read them slower. We all do. But as we look at elementary students, even into 5th and 6th grade, we need them to be reading at a certain rate so that they can keep up with what they need to be doing. This also measures accuracy, and I will say, even though that's not here, most of our kids are hitting the accuracy benchmark, which is a really, really big deal. So I like to just, because it is one of those where if you get into this, if we start to talk too much of comprehension with this, that's not what it's intended to No,
be.
I know, and I also understand, like, I can't time tests, it freaks me out. It totally freaks me out. You know, I'm taking a class right now, I'm panicking over this 30-minute time limit. So I get that whole thing, and I used to, but I'm just not a big, I don't know, I just worry that there's no, like, in some cases, there's just no way. And that worries me a little bit.
Is this the only reading?
So depending on the grade level, so K through, well, TK through TK through 1, the fast test and the read test and grade take. Second grade takes both suites of the fast fluency as well as the A reading, and then when you get to 3rd and up, then you have the ISASP in there as well. And then when you hit 5th grade and 6th grade, it switches out to NWA rather than A readings.
Do you see, like, the 5th graders, make it simple, is it kind of similar, their test scores to the other tests that you were talking about? Are they still kind of stagnant, just kind of plateaued? Are they?
When you look at the 5th grade scores for NWA and A reading, ISASP, it's not looking the greatest. Yeah.
So that goes back to what Joe was saying, what would we do?
It's not just this test, it's the other test too.
Correct.
So what resources do you need? What can we do to help you help the students?
So so 5th grade is in a unique position being where it's at, but reading curriculum, like that we bought last year, the being a writer goes up to 5th grade, and they got that. Reading curriculum, they go with the elementary, but like the phonics curriculum, we used it in 5th grade as like an intervention tool, but we didn't get a new reading curriculum with that. And our subscription for reading curriculum is up in 2 years. So they are using Journeys, but what we are noticing is that the teachers are having to pull and create things, or they have done that and have kind of strayed away from the Journeys curriculum that is purchased for them right now. So that's one of the areas of concern right now, is that curriculum piece for 5th grade for that reading component. I don't, Scott, I don't know if you have.
We've
talked.
about that as far as for the 1 grade level, doesn't really have a set solid curriculum. And we spent time talking with teachers about that. Whether we need, I know Dr. Berla and I talked with Lindsay, whether we need to give them something that's a little bit more concrete and solid. It
there's a gap there.
So you can look at putting a proposal together for us to review sometime. Is that what I'm hearing? Would this be like fifth grade and sixth grade or just fifth grade?
Well, sixth grade got new reading curriculum,
So it would just be for that.
just for the, well, and then it would actually be second through fifth, because second through fifth also use the journeys. So what we would be doing is they're next up in the, if you think about it, they're next up in the curriculum cycle, that's where we are. And right now, it's a matter of us working through. We have solid phonics curriculum, which we knew was the most important for our early readers and our interventions. We have a very solid writing program right now, which helps within our ELA component for that. It's just that now we need to add in the reading comprehension, so there's research that has to be done. And we do, we have 2 years left in our journeys as far as that suite goes, so we would be starting to look at different reading materials. And I know Mr. Aiden and myself, we looked into like intervention pieces, but we didn't know if we wanted to jump into that before getting the foundation built before adding another layer.
We're at some time next year to schedule more help one-on-one with kids that are struggling.
The fifth graders, now they're gonna be going on to sixth. We're talking still with that intervention moving forward, that's for the sixth graders.
Yes, so in the middle school schedule, they will have that MTSS intervention time.
I guess they're out of the, they're into a different curriculum then.
Yes, they are into a different curriculum. They'll start, it'll be their first year instead of sixth.
So how do you feel that curriculum will play with students that are lagging or just, have some gaps? I mean, does it fit better to hold them forward? Or is it kind of, they get frustrated?
Well, last year was our first year with that curriculum, so it's gonna be hard to base that off of 1 year. Next year will be a big year for us to tell some of that, because we're gonna be able to have that group going in that never had it before, and I think we almost have to live a few years.
And when we look at NWEA and ISAF, you will see some of the similar trends, but you will see some of those older, they're, with that new curriculum, they are making gains, yes, or seeing progress. You will still notice that fifth grade is a low area, and that is, the data doesn't lie, so.
I just, what's the other board members saying, if there's something else you need to solve, then please, don't be afraid to come ask us.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments about the VAST?
I know, at the elementary, we're excited, especially Lower Elementary, to see how really they're reading, after that first year of implementation, what's it gonna look like the second year? Just because we have made some really great growth with those young kids, and so to see how that continues to transfer over next year and then subsequent years after that, so.
Yeah, I did find it interesting, the state of Iowa is struggling with the same, it's not just like it's our fifth graders, it's
Yeah.
like, it's universal, the state.
And next year with our instructional coaches, can we make this a focus on the fifth grade, maybe that with the instructional coach at the middle school to kind of.
Me. I can remember who's where. You have to approve some things tonight to make it happen.
Okay, so but that could be a focus, that could be
Yes.
one of the things you guys discuss as a focus.
Yep.
And then the teacher leaders will probably be another focus as well.
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're getting a plan in place.
Yes. Okay.
I think we just had a board workshop 2 weeks ago, listed board priorities, and test scores weren't listed, but it's sort of put the academics and focus and everything else. That came right to the top, so
Yeah.
we just all want to help wherever we can to
Yeah.
keep things moving.
on to the fast math. So the fast math, T2K through first grade take the early math, and then the second through fourth take the A math. So the T2K in the first grade, they have those subtests. And again, this is the first year of doing this since 6-7 years ago, I think. So T2K in the kindergarten, they tested here in the spring numeral identification, number sequence and decomposing, and then first grade did decomposing, square columns, and place value. The second through fourth grade did A math is a computerized test, adaptive test, and test over those 6 domains, which are the main domains of our Iowa core math standards: numbers, operations, counting, cardinality, operations, algebraic thinking, numbers and operations are based on measurement data, as well as geometry. So in the front we have our disaggregated data again, and then on the back it is the math comparisons. I do want to give one little disclaimer about the comparisons. It's not a true apples to apples on this because it's whatever is your default math assessment. CASA is what the numbers pulled here. So for example, our default math assessment here in Carroll is the FAST test, but if you go over to Glidden, for example, they may take the NWA as their FAST, as their math one. Or, you know, they go down to another district and maybe STAR math, right? So it's one of those things where it's not a true apples to apples, just comparing our proficiency compared to other people's proficiency. So.
What is the difference, what's happening in first grade compared to these other grades?
They're really focusing on number
Number
sense.
sense.
They're new, and it's not costing us a lot of money, it's their PLC time. They're creating those daily things that they project, the kids 10 more, 10 less, 20 more, 25 more, 25, and it's just a constant, they go through those lessons like this, and the other grades are picking up on it, fourth grade and kindergarten are working on it too, just building that number sense, looking at objects, how many are there? I mean,
It is also to note, kindergarten and first grade, that's a one-to-one test, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So
They
that's,
take it on the computer starting in second, third, and fourth. So we do, there's a little bit of a wondering if it might be computer skills also that plays a factor in that, so. But
The teacher, the
the
first
teachers
grade,
are working,
yeah,
so the first grade teachers are outstanding with how they're working on this.
And you know what, I would have to go back to a lot of this data is about, they work with the PLC. You know, and that's something that happened while I was gone there. And I just see the benefit of those teachers really getting into assessments and how to teach, and they're on the same timeline. It's a constant, and it's really making a difference in their learning, which will carry over.
We're excited because we're actually borrowing some of their materials because we saw this data. So we were asking them, like, okay, so what are some of the things that you're doing? So my third and fourth grade teams are looking into that to see how they can borrow from those teaching strategies.
And, you know, we're self-contained too, so, you know, it's much easier. But we also do the intervention groups too, so they go out for that. So it's a package, it's not, it's a tight package, I would say, so far.
and I know kindergarten was kind of bummed that they were kind of going down because they're a little competitive as well. And so obviously they start seeing it, and they're obviously talking to other, and so like Sue and Amy said that they've taken those slides and everything, and kindergarten started using their TQ time, starting to develop that so they can start incorporating the same routines in kindergarten too. So.
You know, counting on your fingers, you know, sometimes you use your math or your addition spread, you know, biggest number, count on or something. So it's all about solving a problem that it might be, you know, 5 different ways in the class and kids are solving the problem, but that's good. I mean, it's what's best for them and they can adjust. So a lot of problem solving.
And one thing that's, this is the first year we've given this, since like the past 6-7 years. And so knowing what the test is now, looking over and everything, and not teaching to the test, but looking at, you know, what's expected, so they're starting to incorporate some of those routines. The math, the Iowa Department of Ed has redid some of the math standards for next year. And so, especially at the lower elementary, they've changed more, so now they've added some just Iowa standards, for example, counting backwards. And so that was part of the test, and so being able to do some of that stuff within the routines now should help see that go up. But yeah, first grade, they rock. Anything else with the test?
Okay, so then 5th through 11th grade, we do NWA, and this is a growth test, measures their growth throughout the year, and we took this test 3 times in the fall, winter, and the spring, and we took it in 3 subject areas, ELA, math, and science. All 3 of these tests are adapted and test the different areas you see up on the screen, and it breaks the data down based on those areas for each individual student. And then we have the proficiencies on the chart for you as well. So if you look at the front, I guess I don't know what he has on the front, but you have...
That's a whole separate thing.
Okay. So the NWA proficiencies, so what you see there, the mean score is, the big number is where our students fell. The little number right below that is what the proficient score is. Like, to call them proficient, it's 51%, it's like the 51st percentile for those that fall, winter, and spring. So you can see if our students were above that, and then we have the percent proficient, is the big number in the proficiency, and then how many students took the test compared to how many are proficient. And then that is the same reading, math, and science, and as you go down. As you can see on this, with this data, you can see some of, again, the troublesome areas, but then there's also some very positive areas of growth as well. And that's one thing we focused on at the middle school this year was the growth that the students made. And that's, with this being a growth test, they are projected. Each student has a different projection of what growth they can make from one test to another. And so that's what we highlighted this year at the middle school, and just taking them from where they were in the fall, what their projected growth was, can they beat that score, and can they keep growing? And so the double-edged sword of that is from taking them where they're going, where they're showing growth, but that growth doesn't mean they're necessarily proficient. So we're seeing positives in the growth category, but that doesn't mean we've gotten them to where they need to be. And you can see that in some of the data. But on the positive side, each one of our grade levels in all 3 areas met their projected growth for the year, or for, based on where the students were in the fall to where we wanted them in the spring. They met that projected growth for them. So it takes like we took their fall score and like, so for math, for instance, on NWA, each student is projected to grow 9 to 10 scale score points. So from fall to winter, it's an average of 4 to 5. And then from winter to spring, it would be the 5 points more. And so we took that and we averaged those for all of the students and created a class goal.
And that was it, right, all the classes?
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
That was the movie theater?
Yep. Yes.
I guess I was happy with the fact that we started 3 new curriculums. Typically, when you start 3 new curriculums, statistically, a lot of times you go backwards. So for us to have pretty good growth in those areas, that was pretty good for having the curriculum started in 1 year, 3 years.
I mean, not to pick on fifth grade again, but their math is really bad too.
Yep.
27% is a little shocking.
Yes.
Did they get new math curriculum this year as well?
We added IM. So we got illustrative mathematics 6 through algebra 2 through McGraw-Hill, thank you. McGraw-Hill didn't do the elementary, but we got that through Kendall Hunt. So yes, she does have the IM materials.
And those put in place
So their curriculum won't change from fifth to sixth grade, they'll have the same.
It's fifth grade, the elementary structure of IM is a little bit different. I mean, it's still student-centered, very similar, but fifth grade has has centers and things for their practice. And so that's a little bit different because when they get to sixth grade, they don't have that. But in essence, it's very
Sixth grade made a lot of progress.
How is this test presented to the students? We pump them up beforehand, even the high school students, like, we go, let's go, you got this, rock this, I'm proud, you know, I know you can do it, or is it just kind of like, here we go again, we're gonna do this because it's just like.
So the middle school this year was a little bit, we did a more of a pump them up, like, so the fall, we told them when it was, we did it. The winter and the spring, the teachers all sat down with the students, showed them their fall score. I created a chart that had their projected growth. So on that chart, the teacher had written their fall score, their projected growth, and then like their winter goal. So they all saw before they took the test, what their projected goal or score should be while taking the test. And so then it gave them some ownership of, hey, I need to try hard to get this, and that's where that class average. So they knew, like, if I beat this goal, that helped the whole class. And then we did it again for the spring as well. That was at the middle school. At the high school, we didn't create, we didn't do that.
Our emphasis was on the ISAS.
Yes.
And that's what we focused on. We did send tutors for the ISAS, and they were individually set for the students, based on where they were at. And a lot of that is because, you know, that is the biggest data set that we get. Our teachers work relentlessly for that test, particularly because that is the state report card test. You know, the high school is unique in a sense that we have so many kids coming and going, for DMAC and for off-site work and for athletics, that trying to capture all of those kids, which you know very well, it's a challenge. So you look at the data set collection for just 11th grade, you know, they were only able to test 65 kids, where in the fall we were able to test 80. A lot of that comes down to, you know, having those kids here on site for the amount needed, and trying to work with their schedules to get them tested. It is a challenge. Once you get to that spring testing window, to get those kids in this building, especially if they're at DMAC half day or full day, to
get them tested. So the teachers are working tirelessly for this data, but we have to remember too that they share those students with BMAC and with athletics and everything else. So I wanted you guys to know that that the teachers worked very hard in the high school to make as much data possible.
Cordy mentioned the ISAS aspect of things, so I know that's what's next on our list here. And obviously this is kind of the big one, so if you want to compare the ISAS scores and the beauty scores for obviously fit them up.
So what, the English language arts test here is an adaptive reading section, a fixed writing section, and a fixed language section. And those are all averaged together to create your reading score. Math is a fixed, so all the students, what that means is all the students have the same questions. The adaptive means that the questions change, not everybody has the same questions. And science is adaptive as well, and is given in the 5th, 8th, and 10th grade.
So on the one side of the sheet that we handed out, it just kind of goes, for example, by grade level. So 3rd grade, each year, this is what it looks like. On the back would be kind of a cohort. It's not a true cohort where it's completely matched up, but it's the same class going through the years. So you can kind of see how they progress as they go through. Right now we have just the initial just proficiency. So NYP means not yet proficient, P means proficient, and A means advanced. So anything in the P and A means that they are the proficiency aspect. So around August is when we'll get more of the disaggregated data where we actually can see subgroups for ISAS. So. Because that's how the next generation standards are broken up. It's a grade span of 3.5, 6.8, and 11.10. And so they test them at the end of each of those because technically it's a grade span, like.
Grade test to 3rd grade, are they not?
Yeah, they have to learn all those things. So that's what they do. Then when you flip it over, look at that 10th grade, they actually improved from the previous year. So it's when you compare the different classes, it's a little bit different when you actually compare the class to class. They do well.
So like the 8th grade, like I like the back page a lot better. It just makes more sense to me because I know it's that class.
Yeah.
So they're 2018 and 19, you know, to this year. Wow, that's a one from
So ISAS happens before the NWA and fast and everything. We test ISAS, well, this year because of the way spring break happened and the way Easter break happened, it was right in there, because you didn't want to test too close to spring break. Like we gave them a week when they come back, and then we tested. But if you wait, then you're testing after Easter break. So it's just the way the calendar landed. Next year, there's going to be a little bigger window in there. So really, the test fatigue at that point for ISAS, I wouldn't say it's there. But once you hit your fast testing, your NWA testing, it is quite a bit of testing.
And it's just the time of the year, like, spring is
Yeah.
more challenging than the fall.
It does help to set those like class goals to make one to do better.
Yeah.
And with ISAS, there's a lot more focus on the ISAS, but obviously there's, well, part of it, we have to send out letters and everything to parents or anything, but it's just a lot more formalized. The kids know, okay, this is the kind of test, and, there's practice tests. This, that we go through, and so.
Is there a test, what was your testing schedule like, out of curiosity?
It varied based on building, so like, for ISASP, it was the same, we had a 2-hour late start schedule, and then they tested for 2 hours in the morning. The middle school did that same thing for NWA, high school did NWA in the classrooms, and the teachers gave them. We've done that in the past with the middle school as well, so it just kind of.
And Adams for ISAS, we didn't have to do a 2-hour early schedule or anything, it was just 8:30 to 10:30. So kids had normal recess times, normal lunch times, all that stuff. But we had that luxury.
And we gave them, they had breakfast provided, is that correct? And we do snacks?
We do snacks, breakfast is.
Last year, we had free breakfast that week.
No, we did the year prior.
This
She
year-
would want to work
We want
with
to coordinate that.
Melanie Jard, our director, because we talked about that at the elementary. That might be a great, if we can align that. Did that come 2 weeks
I think it was
earlier or
like-
something like that?
I think it was like later, actually. I think.
Something,
Like,
if we can align those, we would like to.
Let's really try to do that.
I just can't get over the fifth grade looking at, the historical on it. The ELA, the math, the science, go back to 1819, and not yet proficient. Science, but the math, they're going backwards every year. We have more non-proficiency. It's not just one thing. You got to keep it.
All right.
It probably, it just kind of looked at that and like, what is going on there? It just reached your kids. Why is that class not established?
There's a couple things, the difficult part about the conversation is, like, I'm not trying to make any excuses, and nobody in here is. There is, when I was there probably is a little something to the transition. I'm not hanging my hat on that we've talked about the curriculum issues, we've talked about some other things, and there's some other things that we haven't talked about that we won't because it could get kind of personal. But I think there's a variety of things going on. I also think you're fifth grade, you're transitioning a little bit more to that, reading is, you're learning to read kind of up to that point. When you get into that fourth and fifth is more, reading to learn. So we've got a lot of things to figure out, and I know, it jumped out. I said in several of the meetings with staff, and, it came out loud and clear with them too. So I think the things that are most pressing for us are the curricular issue. Fifth grade has kind of been on an island of their own when it comes to reading ELA in terms of curriculum. They just kind of have done their own thing, so we got to get that figured out.
I think the second grade year would have been a big deal for this fifth grade class?
First grade.
Because they would have been, that would have been their COVID year.
They would have been in first grade.
The first grade is our fifth grade class?
First grade.
Yeah, that's huge, because first grade is where we get a lot of this in there.
You get a lot of.
He doesn't pay any attention to this grade.
Let's ask them. It might be a huge issue for them. I'm just thinking about the second half of first grade, that's a lot. First grade's a huge year. And if they missed March, April, May, and now we're playing catch-up in fifth grade, that might be, I don't know, part of it. But, I mean, just, gosh, imagine.
When did we switch to the teachers teaching like science? Yeah.
So,
Because I remember Tyson having a teacher, and
Yes.
we switched like maybe one class or two classes.
And I'm
but-
trying to remember, okay,
so last year was the first year completely departmentalized.
yes.
Several years before that, like.
I,
This year was.
yes, I was the math for, after you left, whatever year that was.
So Tyson, he was there when Tyson was there.
Yes, but was he there with Char?
No. I don't think so.
Macy's grade, I would have switched, yes, so Macy, the eighth graders for the first year. Let me think, no,
No, it's longer than that.
fresh.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. He would be a sophomore.
Yes, the freshman, for the first year we went. And we went, like, so, I would have taught my homeroom, social studies, language arts, and then math. So that was math teacher. And then, they would go to science and then reading somewhere else. So,
I just wonder what happened, I mean, they're still really young, maybe it does something with them having to switch and have all different teachers that not forming those relationships as much with the actual teacher. It's a big adjustment for 10, 11-year-olds, you know.
We say the same thing for freshmen as well, with the transitions that they have as well. They just have to be responsible for certain classes every day, as opposed to every sixth day or every fifth day, or wherever the rotation they're on. It's a huge learning curve for them too.
There's multiple things there, it's not identified one thing. Before I came here, it was at sixth grade, we saw this huge drop, and they recovered in seventh and eighth. But the sixth grade was where they transitioned, and managed from one building to a different. And I think if you look at data across the state or whatever, I believe there is kind of a dip around that sixth grade. But, you know, there's things going on with each kid, starting to happen there. So, but again, none of that is like, hey, it's just, it is what it is. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that's the work that we're gonna do is, I know in our administrative meetings with staff, it's something that it needs attention, immediately, and we gotta get a plan, and I think that's the work that we're gonna be doing over the summer, bringing in.
I think the curriculum may help as well.
Yeah. Yep. Is it possible this fall to have a follow-up, in late fall, or
Yeah.
winter?
Yeah,
Usually do.
we'll do, yeah, we'll go.
And just to see, maybe some of the third year, some things that you look at implementing,
yeah.
which is nice to know.
Yep. We will take NWA in September again, and so we will come back after.
Yeah, nice. You can't share the video information,
Yep.
and change that, especially that class.
We got one last test here, quick to talk about. This is on the back of the NWA one. This is ICFES, and ICFES is the test our preschoolers take. So So it's the early literacy as well as the early numeracy. The early literacy happens on an iPad, and the teacher has an iPad, the student has an iPad, and it goes through picture naming, rhyming, sound identification, which one doesn't belong in alliteration. Early numeracy is just a one-on-one. It's not iPad based, it's with just paper and pencil. Well, kids aren't really doing anything, but they're pointing stuff. Oral counting, number naming, quantity comparison, and just one-to-one counting. So, so tier 2 and tier 3, you can kind of think that as the not yet proficients, where the cut score would be the proficient, and then the tier 1 would be the advanced proficient. It's kind of how it would kind of look if we want to compare it to other tests as well. So you can see that they've made some good growth there, especially with that math piece.
The preschool teachers looked at some things with that, like with the lining. I think they're starting to work on, they're planning for this next school year to try to tackle that as a piece. So they use this data to kind of guide instruction. And also Kemper gives it, so we have our compiled data, but this is, you know.
Yep, this is just
But on the map, it's kind of amazing. You think 1% students in early numeracy are not proficient or whatever they want to call it. And same thing for one-on-one counting. They're getting those basic math skills.
Any questions regarding ICPs or any of the other data?
Thank you for putting all this together.
Not a problem.
He makes a spreadsheet, I just have it.
Like always, if there's any questions or anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Let us know.
And there's plenty more numbers if you want
Like
to
I
see.
said, we got more stuff. Thank you guys.
Appreciate all you guys.
Okay, I'll leave the dongle. I'll come get it. Administrative reports. The costs that are starting to earn are
Well,
a lot, or
well, it seems like a lot. I mean, at this point, mostly because we don't have this school. So, the AEAs have to, it's in Iowa code is what we were told, that like they have to charge a fair market rate. And so, and that will be approved by the DED, I guess. I don't know if it's officially been approved, the $900 a day. But I assume it will be, but that's what they're saying it's gonna be right now, so. Well, we don't know, because so in the past, like this year, when we wanted a science consultant, we just contacted the AEA, this is who's available, we would schedule them, and they come out. And so the flow-through money that went from schools directly to the AEA covered the cost of that.
Is that at $900 a day, or is it at, we don't know what?
No, we don't know that.
we never got a bill to see it.
It's just like a monthly flow through on that? How does that-
Yeah, you'll see on our financials, it's like 800, this year it's like 891,000 revenue, 891,000 and 891,000 expenses. But we never actually got the cash, we never paid it, it's just, that's. So this money here is money that we are now getting.
This coming year, we will, and these aren't, we don't know these numbers for sure, but, I mean, they're in the ballpark, they're not final.
So that 106 and 96 there, that's coming to the district, there won't be that equal expense out, it just automatically will be projected expenses potentially
everything, that's special ed, media, education,
Yeah, so
not
next
just
year's
these
special
things.
ed, we don't get the special ed part, they use the kids now. So,
Which is most of that eight anyways.
Number plus these numbers, maybe about $10. This year, I mean, it's about a wash.
I haven't seen that, I think that's probably the concept that they're working on. but,
Yeah, I think it would, the total that we pay and flow through is like a cost per pupil of our enrollment, so the formula is still gonna be that same cost per pupil, but instead of all of it being flowed through some of it, it's just X percent, 10% of those education areas.
I guess my concern is what they plan is versus what the reality is that's gonna happen.
And then it's happening next year.
Yeah,
Yeah, because this is just kind of a one-year
yeah,
thing.
I know, the numbers just.
Here.
Yeah, and we may find out as we go through, there's things that we got before that they've done a good
So,
job.
yeah, like for example, media services, and, you know, try to find the positives, that in the past, yeah, we didn't get a breakdown on what our filter exactly paid for. And I don't think it would have been, it would have looked different from year to year, depending on what you're doing, but like, for example, media services. They, Heartland AA, they, $22 a kid, and we would pay that, we would have access to many of the things that we had for $22 a kid.
It's 22 a kid, but it's also 22 services, so it's everything
22
from
services.
EBSCO host to Bookflix to Gale
Yeah.
to
That's all of that.
videos, all of those things.
And so, that's for next year, now, the year after that, that's gonna be different. But we will know this year what things that we accessed, and we'll be able to make a decision going forward if we still need that level of media service or we can do something different, but,
So are we gonna put this next year in place to see what we're actually using versus
Yeah.
what we're.
yeah, because now we've got a spreadsheet that we're keeping, that like we've got our science consultants down at the $900 a day. The other thing that we're doing, and again, I'll say this is probably a positive, and on the ed services side is, so if we're paying $900 a day, we really are thinking about where we get the most bang for our buck. And so instead of just bringing an AA person in to do a set and get thing with staff, it's more how can we get them in the classroom, giving feedback modeling maybe with teachers, you know, those kind of things. And so hopefully we'll see some positives that way. But yeah, so, and I think that we'll continue to get more information, I mean, we will, and how this is going to work.
Basically, if you're doing something next year, either this just at the administration level, this administration and staff level, and your building leadership, and you're going through seeing what you can use, what you're gonna use. I didn't know, what's your thought, how are you looking at attacking this and going
With utilizing AA services.
Yes, because as you mentioned, you're gonna say, we use this in the past, now look at, hey, this way, maybe we'll look at doing something differently, get a committee put together to look at this, or is?
I don't at this time, no. I mean, I think we could certainly look at that, but we certainly would obviously get feedback from our teachers in terms of what things are doing, since it's broken down a little bit more specific. Again, I think teachers we're probably just used to, it's just kind of something I had available. I think one of the, you know, we do have to get some procedures in place. We talked about this administratively about like, we can't have these guys, principals just picking up the phone calling the AEA because there's a bill that comes with that. So, you know, we gotta get some procedures in place of the, you know, the process of how we access that. I think the other thing that we're really talking a lot about right now, I put on there the CPI training. So we're gonna need to be more strategic on, you know, who all we train there and how we go about that. It's gonna be way more expensive than we're used to, so we're looking at, do we have a staff person that we should train to be able to train our staff? Is that cheaper than going through the AEA? We're used to, at our BAT meetings, building assistant team meetings, an AEA person sitting in those meetings. That's gonna, there's a fee for that, there's a charge for that now. And then probably the biggest adjustment is here at Carroll, the way special education works with the non-public school. Our teachers are the teacher in charge of those IEPs. In the past, we've learned more and more about the role the AEA consultants have played in making sure those IEPs are being implemented, followed, all that kind of stuff. Our teachers are gonna take on a different role, an expanded role there, so we're having to make some adjustments on that one.
And what about this testing?
Testing.
Fast testing, all the testing,
Yeah,
we
we
just
gotta
went
pay.
through the cost of that
Right.
as well.
A reading and fast are still paid for by the state, but we have to pay for AMAT now.
For this coming year. So, we are, we have talked to the AEA, and they're working on, possibly we got an opening for a social worker, about, our share of social worker next year rather than, fill that, so we'll see if that comes to fruition. But, the advantage there is you get some operational sharing, which is revenue, and then you expense, you wouldn't have the 1.0 FTE. So, yeah, they're working on staffing on their end on that. Yeah. So we're getting in the habit right now of getting all those things down and tracking those things closely.
You say like the teachers are gonna have to do more. How much more are we talking about?
Yeah.
What, how are we gonna,
Well,
how do we have time to do that too?
Right, so we're looking at our special education staff and their caseloads. And the more means our teachers really haven't had to physically go over to them to do it if they will have to. So we're looking at aligning our staff. Right now, we have it set up where we got a couple of teachers that will do that. And then, there's a conversation with the AAA about possibly some contracting with them to still help with that. Because we have one building and we just can't, that happens where, we might have more IEPs or more goals in one building than the next. And so we're having kind of a challenge in one of our buildings, freedom of staff.
They can't provide a special ed teacher. Try to step up. I mean, just.
They actually-
It's uncharted waters.
Right,
so
right.
Is there a way they can help us?
They actually have special ed, well, they got high school one is certified, and then they have other teachers that are not necessarily special ed teachers, resource teachers that are over there.
I just, since they're the ones seeing the kid, all the time, and we just,
Yeah.
for an AP, when you're done, we have to be responsible for that, to see it all.
It's a consultative model, so our people really are supposed to be consulting. They're doing the day-to-day work of it, but again, if our teacher's actually running the meeting, they need to know something about the kid. And so that's what we're talking about. Or in the past, the AAA person has often run the meetings. It's the way it sounds. So big adjustments on the AAA staff part too.
Anything else on this front? Good? Okay, personnel report.
We have one resignation. This is a teacher that never really taught for us, but she did have a signed contract with Kinsey Venus. She resigned her teaching K through 12 physical education teaching position. One resignation is recommended. Then under recommendations, Courtney Adams is recommending Kelly Schultz for yearbook sponsor, as well as Tiger Ridge and media manager position. If approved, she would be paid $18.95 for the yearbook sponsor position and $18.95 for the media manager position. Scott Aiden would like to recommend Josh Peter and Matt Rice to split Finance is recommending William Scholl for $500 stipend for coordinating Special Olympics at the CHS. That's mostly for the event, that's for the events that were outside of the contract time. Sue Rock is recommending Cindy Laricamp for the T2K through 4 PD position. If approved, should be paid $69,000. And this is a one-year agreement with Cindy. And that would cover our number one resignations. Randy Beeson's recommending Will Scholl receive $1,000 stipend to help us out with girls golf this season. That hasn't been paid. Randy Beeson's recommending Bill Polking for the assistant large group speech position. Bill's been our large group speech coach, sponsor for the past 15 years. He will be paid $2,532. Randy Beeson's recommending Becca Steffen for the 7th grade volleyball position. She's our new middle school PE teacher. She has 0 years of paid coaching volleyball experience. If approved, she will be paid $18.95. Jen Detlinger is recommending the following addition to current driver Joy Booth's contract, noon route from 10:30 to 12:20, Tuesday through Friday. If approved, Joy would receive her current rate of pay. Jen is recommending current sub-driver Mike Brinker be approved for contracted position. If approved, he would drive an AM route and a PM route. And if approved, he would be paid $21.80 per hour. Scott A. is recommending Rachel Eilison for the 8th grade science instructor position. Rachel taught for 2 years and then subbed at Denison this past year. If approved, she would receive $47,500 plus a $2,500 signing bonus. Bonus would be paid out in full for 1 year. It's contingent upon fair background check. And then 1 volunteer, that's Molly Lang as a volunteer for the varsity volleyball program.
Make a motion to approve this and separating out number 1 in the recommendations for the consent. All but number 1. Under the recommendations, separating them. Or a motion. Who made the second?
They pointed at each other. Jill,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Stacy, Jim.
Yes.
I now make a motion to approve number 1 under recommendation.
Wade. Wade.
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Stacy, Jim.
Yes.
lot of paragraphs, but it's basically, the resolution that Tim talked about that's required tonight to set a public hearing date for potential issuance of, state revenue bonds. Up to, as the resolution reads, it's to fix a date for the public hearing, which is set for July 15th, 2024 at 6:30, so on a regular board meeting in July, for up to issue not to exceed 16 million in state revenue bonds. So this is just setting the public hearing date. This resolution is what will get posted in the paper, giving the public notice that we're going to have a public hearing. Give them the opportunity to speak on that possibility.
And this doesn't mean we're spending the money, we're just
No.
saying, this is what we're looking at. This
We're
is
looking
possible.
for public comment, or we're giving the public the opportunity to speak on that possibility.
Only thing I like about this is that it gets misunderstood as previous. I wondered if, I should ask Tim, if 12 million would be more appropriate if it says we're not gonna control the project.
You
If
can,
we as a board are, because I saw the 16 and I thought, oh gosh, they're gonna add this and they won't listen.
But what scares me about doing that is if we say 12, and we have to, and it comes in 15, we have to go back then and do this whole process again. So that's the part that we need a little bit, that maybe we should do the whole.
I mean, we have had the public, conversations and have said that we haven't made any decision on what we're spending.
And I realize we're not, I understand that. It's
I
just-
know.
It's like, it's that perception.
Yeah.
Maybe just talking about it is like,
We had the bus barn.
if you reduce it, it says we've taken the whole thing off the table.
I'm just nervous that if something would come in, you just have no idea what these guys are gonna come in and have to go back through this whole process again.
We don't want to do that.
Doesn't seem feasible either. What do you need?
a motion to resolution, or
I'll make that motion. I know, but we're gonna have to.
I don't have a problem with it going to 16 to be in there, I just be ready to explain it, that's all I'm saying.
Which we have done very cleverly.
I know.
So we won't have to-
Maybe,
we can continue to do that.
I may just be overly cautious about it, it's just one of those, okay, we are listening to the community, I want them to understand we are listening to what they're saying. The letter to the editor, we got some great comments back, we had better representation, a good representation, at the last meeting, a good representation, us wanting to get to the chamber, so it's just a matter of that perception, so.
I think the idea that, everybody should know that we are listening to them. But we just have to do it this way for our legalities and our way of things we have to do.
continually presenting
There
options,
ourselves.
any scenarios that you guys asked.
I'll second the motion, it's just a concern.
Yeah, they were really concerned about it either way. So, I just don't want to have to go back through the process after the bidding.
And the other thing that does is it gives, then we get the bids, but that doesn't mean we're not gonna bid it. Correct. You lower it, and it's almost, you can't, what bids do you get or see?
Because as you stated earlier, we're looking at what level we're going to approve it.
Okay, Stacy? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yep. Jill?
Yes.
Kristen? Yes.
You said not, like, bold.
What?
You put the word not.
Not what-
to exceed.
Oh, yeah, up, like up
Can I
to,
adjust
not
that?
to.
All capitals.
Sorry. Yeah. It is, consider approval of the CEA.
Okay, so this is it's attached or linked on the agenda response back from CEA president, co-president. We've made some revisions that, honestly, there haven't been many revisions to this for like 5 years. Many of the revisions are, I think, just to bring up the language to more align well to what we're really doing in some cases. But there's a few things I wanted to for sure point out, and you may have some questions. We needed to update the language about salary in terms of schedule. We don't have the same salary schedule we did before. So steps, salary steps, and those kind of things that isn't how we do it anymore. And then health insurance, we needed to update the language around that. Then we did add, this does have a personal leave, can now be used in hourly increments. That is something that came from, we met with the CEA and the Labor Management Committee, I don't know, 3 times this year plus the negotiations. And that was something that we had discussed in those meetings. That's on page 9. So, but prior to, it's always been half-day increments. So you had to take the morning or you had to take the afternoon, now you'd be able to do hourly increments. We did add on page 10 and 11 a sick leave bank. That kind of came from some discussions in those meetings with them, and also CESO, that's on the agenda tonight. This would allow those who want to participate to contribute to a sick leave bank and then be able to utilize it. And I think we've laid out, after reviewing several different school districts and how they have it set up, laid out the procedures for that. And then we reduced, and then the evaluation language, just updated some terms there, and then we did reduce walkthroughs from 3 to 2. So instead of doing 3 walkthroughs, it's 2 walkthroughs for the tier 1 teachers. So those are some of the big things I wanted to highlight, but were there any questions? Not a state thing in Iowa. I think there are some schools that tie like a retirement incentive to sick leave or do some other things with sick leave. I think that is a district decision in Iowa. Yep.
Need a motion to accept the
Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim? Wayne?
Yes.
Jill? Like the level 2 investigator?
So chapter 102, that's whenever you're dealing with physical abuse of a student by an employee, I'll use that term. It could be physical contact, something else, but there's a level 1 investigation, which we have staff who are trained to be level 1 investigators, and then if it's found that that level goes to level 2, and that we have, you've been using the Carroll PD for our level 2 investigator. I talked to Brad Bird, and he said that they would serve in that role again for us. We do it, yeah, it's something we approve each year.
Jill? Yes. Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Dwayne? Yes.
Science kids.
kits are for labs, hands-on things. Last year, we kind of just pieced this stuff together, bought a lot of things at Walmart from Amazon. This would be now buying kits that are more ready for teachers just to pull out, ready to use. Probably, what's that?
You have permanent kits, and then you have consumable kits that you would have regardless of science class. Like a biology class, you're always going to be ordering different live organisms, potentially, things like that.
Sure.
So,
Some are permanent, some are
Yeah.
not.
so we didn't pay anything. The open side.
Right. Right, yeah.
We purchased our materials, consumables as needed this year, so you would have saw lots of the bills, lots of random, as they needed them, but this comes with a kit, so teachers actually getting the materials that are needed up front, so they're not having to go in and do all those purchase orders, they're actually getting, yeah.
Price wise, about the same?
Yeah, it would be the same.
So it's a time saving.
And not only that, but the setup for the labs, because teachers are having to actually like color code things themselves. This is already done for them.
So once again, this might be a bill receipt.
For the consumable portion.
Just the consumable.
So we have two quotes here.
One is for middle school, so one is for the, what would be 6 through 8. So we have the permanent equipment and then the consumable equipment. And then the other quote is for biology and chemistry at high school. Permanent is the larger portion of those. The permanent is just that. And when we talk to the vendor, the nice thing is like with consumables, we can order like the first 2 units in August and then the next 2 units in November, like there's a timing thing.
You don't have to order this whole.
I don't know, because we have some that would die.
Yes.
We talked specifically about that there's things that would die, so that's why this just makes it a lot easier for teachers and storage and all of that stuff.
Do these, if you did like a 6th grade or 7th grade kid, does that take care of all the kids in the
Yes,
class?
which is the awesome part, is it's actually up to 160 students, so we would have extra, so if kids, like, let's be honest, kids mess up experiments and you have to try it again. So each of these is, so each kit serves 160 kids.
We're hoping next year will be quite as much.
Yep.
Because the permanent stuff would be on here, that
Yep.
was going to consume. Well, do you need the motions separate or do you feel that?
Either is fine.
Because they're together.
Yeah, we're not picking one or the other, so it's also approving both, it's fine.
Oh, I can't, I'm doing that.
I'll second it, she made the motion.
Whatever I just did there. Sorry. Yeah, I just didn't know if it had to be separate or together, so I was really just asking the question, but no, I can make that.
Blake?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim?
Clever touches. This one might be
No, they're separate, so I can say. Clever touches, so we've been kind of in the process of adding clever touches for the last several years. So we've got a quote here to add, there's a total of 13. This is the company we've been using, so. Now, yeah, so a couple things to point out. There are 2 of these, the 86-inch, those 2 are both part of that grant that Courtney talked to you about last month for the CTE area. So those 2 would be paid for through the grant. We buy 60, the rest are for 65-inch cover touches. And there's one for tag that we would use tag runs for, but then the rest would be just, general, probably save money. But this would go to finishing the elementaries. So we would have them in don't have on the life span,
How many do we have right now?
well, we got the middle school probably has the fewest, I think. The English department, we got 2 over there. We probably got 6 or so in the high school. And they've got 8. Fairview's got,
No, then we've got title, and so we got 13.
yeah,
I'd say 20 or 25 total.
He's looking under the breakdown insurance. Those are the insurance, the breakdown insurance. Oh, that's.
If there was a, something that needed a repair or, right, yeah, repair would be.
we've gone to these instead of the projectors and boards, stuff like that. You can manipulate the screen. It works really well with some of the new curriculum materials.
When I toured with students, they were using it basically in the for learning.
Jim? Wayne? Bill?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Stacy?
So the next one is the Chromebooks, and this is our annual, it's pretty much what we do each year. I don't know that we've always brought this to the board. I felt like we should. Okay, I don't know that we always have, and because the cost per unit's not above 5,000, but the total is big. You know, you see 128,000, like, where's this come from? But anyway, this is a quote from Sterling again. This is the company that we've used. Craig got a couple different, he quoted the 64 gigabyte or 4 gigabyte, I think. 2 different sizes, and settled on this one. And so it's 450 Chromebooks. And then what we do is we take out the oldest, and we try to get rid of some technology pieces that are outdated, no longer in use each year, but instead of put them in a closet somewhere. But only those that are really just, they need to be taken out of the rotation. We do have pretty much Chromebooks enough for one every kid. They don't all, we're not one-to-one in that they take them home or anything like that, but we can get a Chromebook in the hands of every kid. Is where we're at with our numbers of Chromebooks.
I am.
Big number.
I am both of you. Stacy? Yes. Jim? Wayne? Jim? Jill? Jen? Jill? Kristen? Yes. Getting too fast over here.
Okay, yeah, parking lot, couple things on this. So we've spent a lot of money on parking lots, and we are at the point now where we're now on a rotation where we can do maintenance. I say just, and it's not cheap, but Jeff and I got together and we have, the agenda item is for Fairview and Adams, and we do have quotes for both Fairview and Adams. And, yeah, there's blue and orange, or aqua and orange. And what we are recommending is that we're recommending we go with the bargain quote for Fairview only for this year. We would do then Adams next year, and then we have the schools on pretty much an annual rotation. So, next year we'll be bringing Adams to fill the cracks, seal over, and then the next year would be middle school, and then high school, and then we'd be maybe a year off, parking lots.
So, sorry, one question to clarify this, are we saying this Adam bid would approve for
so you have in your folder, I think it's in your folder, for mechanical sales, Carroll controls, and then there's a diagram. What we're talking about is the HVAC system here at the high school that runs heating and cooling in the front office. Comes out of the Tiger Vision room down to the counselor's office. I don't, that next room might be on it too, I'm not sure, but it's that section of the high school. And it's actually, that would be probably the newest system in the building. It has been a problem from pretty early on. And what we have is a quote from mechanical sales that would replace equipment, run new lines, do a snow hood system, these kind of things. These recommendations came from, these are Daikin units, and we had a company, Daikin, out here this spring, and they did a study and a walkthrough, looked at the system, and gave us back a report, and mechanical sales was here and that kind of thing, and these things are all in that report. You can see the quote from mechanical sales is $69,000, and that's the equipment, and then Carroll controls, which we thought that was a pretty fair price on the installation, is $12,200. On this diagram, what you have is what we'd be replacing is everything inside the circle. So on top of the roof, there's units on top of the roof. I think there are two. This would bring that system up to the 4th generation, the most current, and that would, in that generation, there's just one unit on the roof, and it would replace the piping that goes all the way over to this, which would be replaced as well. From that, then it goes to the vents that are in the buildings. They did, while they were here, they did evaluate everything that's under the roof, and it would all be compatible with this new equipment going in. We're really at a spot where right now there's no air conditioning in that area. There wasn't all last summer. I don't remember, we might have got it running when school started, and then when it was time to heat, we had another issue that we had to try to fix. And we probably replaced 7 or 8 compressors in the system. They're just a regular, something not right.
So this 4th generation, this has been out for a while, right?
21, yeah.
Okay, so you've seen a couple of years. Because
Yeah.
one of the versions before relatively modern that.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, the Fairview office has this next newer, and that's run really well for us. We did have Ferris Engineering look pretty closely at this. We were on the phone with them, today. They're not going to say, "Hey, I promise you, you're not going to have any more issues." But everything's lining up, telling us that this is a good option for us. I think mechanical sales, that while I don't have a breakdown, I can't tell you what it would cost us. I think they're treating us okay there. We did look at just some general approximate pricing. If we were to say, the heck with this, we're going to do something new. We looked at a train system, and you're looking at, it would be 100,000 plus, what we believe. So based on what, not official, just talking to the engineer, giving us some numbers. To your point, he did say he's working with a district, or somebody in Nebraska right now that's been having a lot of the same issues, and this is the kind of the path they're going to. This wasn't necessarily in our plan this year, but at some point we gotta try something different than what we're doing
Whatever, so it might be
question. Mechanical sales said this equipment's pretty common equipment, they usually have it available in Houston. So we think we can get the equipment pretty quickly. It would be more of an issue of Carroll Controls and when they would be able to, which we're hopeful that will be this. The thing is that we have the same level of problem with the heating too. Like right now it's the cooling, but like in the winter it's a problem too with the heating.
This won't fix the heating.
That's all of it.
So how do you feel about the alternatives on this year to preventative maintenance?
We did talk about that. We're not recommending we go with that. We use the equipment breakdown insurance as well for some heating, cooling, so we have some stuff over there. We have a year warranty and the compressors and things like that, which I should say, when we have to replace them, the compressors under warranty, they're 5-year warranties, I think, for those. But then mechanical sales charges us a whole bunch of money to come out here and put them in, and so we end up paying thousands of dollars to do that anyway. So, we'd have 1 year of preventative maintenance in the $69,000, we'd go with that. And there'd be warranty with the new equipment. And so that's our thinking.
The only thought I wondered was, with 3 years of preventative maintenance, it's gonna bring them here for 3 years, because we had so many issues. I don't know if it's worth it, or just you have to do on the maintenance on the year two anyway.
Well, SU doesn't do the maintenance, but we can get some preventative maintenance that we can cover that. I don't know, we just,
Sorry, because I just felt well, we're getting 1 year, so really it's 3 year, 2 and 3 years, that's over $6,000 a year for those 2 years.
I mean, it's certainly something.
I just didn't know what that involved, if it brought them, it's gonna bring it back a year or two, with maintenance on it automatically, or even 3, or I think they would come in and try to catch anything, see if it's officially running. I didn't know what was that look like.
Well, I think probably just what you said, they would come and do, evaluate the system and address anything that would address that might cause us a problem. I mean, that's the point of it.
So we will get one out.
Yeah, we'll get one. And I'm sure that I don't know what the cost will be, I'm sure next year felt like we thought we should add a couple of years of that, they give us a quote, I'm sure.
We do trail controls does some maintenance also on our HVAC already. There's a monthly service fee that we pay, so I'm sure that's something that's something we can do.
Need a motion to approve the $69,000.
Yeah, so the installation.
Yes.
Second.
Jill?
Yes.
Kristen? Yes. Stacy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yep. Let Courtney talk about that.
The last 2 years, we have sent students to the Latinos in Action Conference in Des Moines at Drake University. And it's been a really good opportunity for our kids to be able to hear and experience guest speakers, keynote speakers, and then they have breakout sessions. And so we have really done a lot of studying around this program over the last 2 years, and we really wanted to make sure that this was a program we wanted to implement in our school building before we actually just asked for it. Daniel Cordova and Jennifer Holmgradeville would be co-teachers for this class. It would be an actual class, an elective class that focuses on not only building a strong community of students that are either Latino or connected to the Latino community, but also students that just have an interest in ESL or ELL, supporting tutoring This is a program where students learn essential skills in planning, but then also they spend upwards of 4 to 5 hours a week in our elementary schools, our lower middle school, supporting the students, or ESL or ELL, through strategies that they learn from this program. So it's really an amazing program that we're really excited to take to the next level.
So how much have we spent over the last 2 years?
None,
So the last 2 years we haven't paid? for
just the
anything?
busing.
Oh, just the busing, but we haven't paid any of these here?
No.
Okay.
They have allowed us to come to the conference for free since we were considering the program the last 2 years, which I don't know what the total cost was per student for that, but
Now, what is this expense here, what's the maximum expense again?
we can have as many sections as we would like. So the goal would be to start with one period this school year, just to kind of like we did with IJEC, to get it right, to make sure that we're providing the right instruction and curriculum, and then also that tutoring piece is strong, because we want it to work out for both the elementary schools and for our students. So if we look at total enrollment, I would think based on the kids that we took to the conference that would sign up today, if we email them and say, hey, this is happening, we're sitting at about 21 students.
How are you gonna do the mentoring for this students? I'm just curious on that one.
So it's gonna be during 5th period, which our intervention period is during 4th period. And so we're going to pick a couple of days that they would be able to go during that intervention period through the class period. So that would take them, that would give us about 70 minutes of time to be transported to the elementary school, because we would take the bus to the elementary school. We would not allow students to drive there. And then they would have about 50 or so minutes with the students.
And that works with the schedule of the elementary school then?
Can.
Okay. So we prove it tonight, you can make that happen.
I'm sure.
I'll make a motion to approve this. Blake?
Yes.
Jill? Yes. Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim? I'm for Blake's for referee, since this is taking a while, so I'm reading that real quick. Anybody wants to go to the bathroom, around,
Hourly, it'd be an 8-hour day, and you'll notice the contract days are 230. But the one thing we really want to note, and we noted it in the application too, is that it's going to be just like Ruby's schedule. It's got to be flexible, because like I'll give you an example. We've had some students that are working some overnights right now, and a couple of different things. So Ruby's schedule right now looks different than it would during the school year, but this person would just have to be flexible on those hours, because you're coaching while those students have jobs, and then also educating and supporting within the school day.
So Gordon, will they be able to clock in and clock out?
Yeah.
Remotely, so you can track,
Well-
or how you looking at presenting that?
We'll have to work with Kendra and Nicole, because they've changed some processes on how to clock in and clock out, but this is also a half pay, right? So we're only responsible for half of the salary on this. So I don't,
We paid
We paid
100% in IDRS, have a 100% cost share, so we do pay 50% back.
yeah.
I just want to make sure they work those hours that we pay.
They are required.
That they can get a document probably without us giving them half.
Right, there is a lot of paperwork involved to be able to have this cost share. They have to do this thing called PAR every single month that literally has to account for every single one of their hours. So if you ever have questions on what Ruby's hours are, she has to document to the minute what instruction she's providing, who she's providing it to, and where it was happening, and classify it. So this person will also have to do the same in order to be able to get that state funding money.
I'd like to make a motion.
Did so much over the summer. It was so decent.
It was so fun. The fishing, you guys, like, I wish
whichever. Now that I know for next year, we all need to go to the fishing experience. A lot of those kids, that was their first time ever fishing, but then also actually catching a real fish and putting a real worm on a hook. Like, our students that were not are nonverbal, like they were expressing excitement through their assistive technology. It was so awesome.
Jim? Dwayne? Jill? Kristen? Stacy?
Okay, memorandum of understanding to participate in IJAG.
This is just a renewal contract for
Stacy? Yes. Jim? Yes. Dwayne? Jill? Yes. Kristen? Yes.
Consider approval of one agreement for
Yeah, so, 1 year, this is for 1 year, and it's for $21,037. You did quote us a 3-year, and we opted to go with the 1 year because we want to really look to make sure that, we still meet our needs. We use it for ROAR, credit recovery, outside of ROAR, summer school. But we want to look and see whether it's, still, a similar program, looking into making sure that we're still, just meeting our needs best, or if there's other options that we want to look at, so that's why we're looking at here.
I'll motion to
Kristen? Yes. Stacy? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Jill?
Yeah, they go together. In your packet, option. Packet for option 2, 8-week shift, or if we wanted to do it, we could condense it into a 6-week shift. DLR put this together with consideration of the financial side of, how we pay for the project. So, we'll be able to preference for this one.
No, I mean, it's, so if you look at section 4, that's the construction documents, you can see it has the public hearing for July 15th under both of the 2-week period, and then the 6-week, I mean, it has the final completion date the same for both of 10/8/2025. It has, the bid opening and approval of construction contracts in August on the 6-week one, and that'd be a special meeting versus the 8-week one, which would be September's meeting. So the time, the 2-week differences in the bid documents and getting bids back, and then when we would approve it, and then the length of construction time, but